The desert highways of Arizona stretch into forever. Miles of darkness. Miles of silence. And miles of hidden places where the living are not welcome. Of travelers who speak of diners that glow at midnight, even though they were closed for decades. Of waitresses who vanish when you blink. Of coffee cups that refill themselves. And of voices whispering from the jukebox long after it is unplugged. If you are ready to walk into a place where time twists and shadows breathe, then let us begin. Welcome, my friend. I hope you are doing well tonight, and I am truly grateful to have you here with me. Arizona's desert is vast, mysterious, and filled with stories that refuse to die. Some of these stories hide in old mining towns. Some cling to forgotten highways. And some live inside small diners that once served travelers in the dead of night. But these diners do not rest quietly. Even after closing their doors forever, something inside them continues to move, watch, and listen. Some say the spirits of past employees linger at the counter. Others believe time loops inside these buildings, trapping the last moments of frightened travelers. And a few claim that some of these diners are not abandoned at all, but still fully active in a world parallel to ours. Before we begin our journey through all 25 haunted diners, here is a question for you. If you were driving alone through the desert and saw an old diner glowing in the darkness, would you stop for a warm meal, or would you keep driving? Tell me in the comments. I truly want to know. Take a deep breath. Relax your mind. And let the desert open its doors. The desert stretches endlessly, a vast sea of sand and heat that shimmers beneath the relentless sun. Travelers speak of a place that appears only when the horizon blurs, a diner rising from the mirage like a secret waiting to be discovered. The Crimson Mirage Diner sits isolated, its red neon glow muted under the heavy sun, promising respite but offering far more than any ordinary roadside stop. Approaching the diner, the air seems to shift. The oppressive heat of the desert gives way to a sudden chill. A cold draft slips across the floor, carrying whispers of the unknown. It brushes the ankles of visitors, unsettling in its unexpected presence. Inside, the diner is perfectly arranged, yet unnervingly empty. Tables gleam under polished surfaces, plates are set as though awaiting guests who may never arrive. Silverware catches the faint glow of sunlight that somehow filters in through dusty windows. The walls are lined with booths, each one silent but filled with a presence that seems palpable. Some travelers claim to see reflections in the windows, themselves sitting at a table, eating in quiet solitude. There is no movement, no sound beyond the faint hum of the air conditioning, yet the reflection feels alive, observing. Each moment lingers, stretching seconds into an eternity as the mind struggles to reconcile what it sees with what is real. At the counter, a row of stools stands ready. The chrome edges shine despite the dust that coats the diner. And the floor beneath carries faint impressions of footsteps that vanish when looked at directly. There is a smell, faint but distinct, of freshly baked bread. And strong coffee. It is comforting, yet unsettling, as though the diner remembers visitors long gone, preparing for their arrival before they even step through the door. The diner's windows reflect the desert outside, but sometimes the reflection does not match reality. Travelers report seeing vehicles parked in the lot, only for them to disappear upon closer inspection. Heat waves ripple over the sand, hiding paths and roads that should lead elsewhere. It is as though the diner exists partially outside of time, a place that answers to no map or compass. At night, the Crimson Mirage Diner transforms again. Its neon sign hums with a low, resonant energy, pulsing softly as if breathing. The air grows colder, and the shadows stretch long across the floor, following no particular direction. The tables remain set, as though waiting for someone to complete a meal that was never started. Patrons who have dared to enter after sunset speak of a quiet hum, like soft laughter or whispered conversation, echoing through the empty booths. Some visitors describe seeing a figure moving through the diner, always just beyond the edge of vision. It passes behind booths, near the counter, never stopping, never acknowledged. A visitor might glance back to catch the figure again, only to find nothing but the soft flicker of light and the scent of food that never grows cold. Others describe the feeling of being watched, though no eyes meet theirs. The diner itself seems alive, observing those who step across its threshold, recording them in memory that may outlast their lives. During the day, when the sun beats down on the desert, the diner almost disappears entirely. The heat shimmers across the sand, bending reality, hiding the building from sight until a traveler's gaze happens to catch the red glow. Then it appears, fully formed, as though it had been waiting just for them. No footprints lead to it, and none leave, yet visitors find themselves inside, seated before plates of food they never ordered. It is a place of paradox, where the familiar comforts of a diner mix with the impossible, creating a space that cannot exist and yet does. Despite the mystery, some cannot resist the pull of the Crimson Mirage Diner. They enter seeking answers, a rest, or simply to touch something that seems suspended between worlds. Once inside, the cold air carries a strange clarity, and the stillness allows thoughts to settle and focus. The diner offers no judgments, only observation, leaving visitors to wonder if they are discovering a hidden truth or falling into an illusion crafted by the desert itself. As the sun sets, the diner glows faintly against the encroaching night, an isolated beacon in the sand. Travelers leave with more questions than answers, their reflections lingering in photographs, in memory, and in stories passed along to those who have not yet seen the mirage. Some swear they hear footsteps behind them long after they have left, reminder that the diner remembers, quietly, patiently, eternally. The Crimson Mirage Diner is more than a place. It is a mystery etched into the desert, a riddle of light, shadow, and reflection that challenges the mind and stirs the imagination. Those who encounter it leave changed, haunted by glimpses of themselves in a space that exists only at the edge of perception. In the vast emptiness of the desert, where heat and sand distort reality, the diner waits, always ready to appear, always ready to vanish, and always ready to leave its mark on those who dare to enter. Rusty Fork Junction sits at the edge of a quiet highway, the kind of place travelers pass by without a second thought. Its weathered sign creaks in the wind, and the neon lights flicker as though struggling to stay alive. On the surface, it appears like any ordinary diner. Yet the locals know better. They speak in hushed tones, crossing themselves as they steer clear of its doors. They speak in hushed tones, crossing themselves as they steer clear of its doors. Those who venture inside speak of strange occurrences that defy explanation. Silverware moves on its own. Forks scrape across empty plates, sliding from one side of the counter to another without a hand in sight. Chairs rock gently, even though no one is sitting in them. The air carries a chill, a sense that someone or something is watching, lingering just beyond the corner of vision. The diner opens early, welcoming the rare traveler looking for breakfast or a late-night coffee. During the day, it seems perfectly ordinary. The scent of fried eggs and sizzling bacon drifts from the kitchen. And the old jukebox hums softly in the corner. But as night falls, the atmosphere shifts. Shadows stretch across the linoleum floor, twisting into shapes that vanish when approached. The fluorescent lights flicker in a rhythm that feels almost like a heartbeat, pulsing through the empty room. Those who have stayed late enough describe a figure appearing at the register just after midnight. It stands motionless, a dark silhouette framed by the dim glow of the neon sign outside. Patrons have recounted feeling a slow, deliberate tapping on the counter. When they gather the courage to turn, the figure has vanished. Yet the tapping continues, echoing in the silence as if the diner itself has become alive. Servers whisper about missing items and cold spots that appear without warning. Silverware drawers open and close on their own, and sometimes the plates of freshly prepared meals slide across tables, as if guided by invisible hands. The footage is grainy, yet undeniable. Rusty Fork Junction carries a history that seems to feed the strange phenomena. Built decades ago, it has seen countless travelers pass through. Stories persist of a night long ago when a sudden fire swept through part of the diner, claiming lives that were never fully accounted for. Others speak of arguments between owners, disputes over the land, and an abrupt closure that left the building abandoned for months. It reopened quietly, but something remained in the air, a lingering residue of anger, fear, and regret. Visitors who have spent a night in the diner describe an oppressive stillness. The kind that presses on the chest and slows the pulse. Moments stretch unnaturally long, and the usual sounds of a quiet highway fade into silence. Some claim to have felt cold fingers brush their shoulders, or to have heard whispered words that vanish before they can be understood. Despite the eerie reputation, curiosity draws people in. Paranormal enthusiasts, amateur ghost hunters, and the occasional brave traveler seek to witness the strange events firsthand. They report the lights dimming and brightening in a pattern, as though responding to an unseen presence. The shadow at the register sometimes appears closer, sometimes farther, always just out of reach. Cameras catch fleeting images of figures bending over tables, disappearing as if swallowed by the very walls. The diner's exterior reflects the stories within. The paint peels from the siding, and rust creeps along the metal frames of the windows. At night, the parking lot remains eerily empty, even when headlights sweep across it. Some claim to hear car engines revving, tires squealing. Yet no vehicle is ever present. Others witness a strange light circling the building. A glow that appears and disappears into the darkness like a wandering soul. Locals insist that Rusty Fork Junction should not be approached after dark. Yet those who cannot resist find themselves drawn into a mystery that has endured for decades. The diner holds secrets layered into the very structure of its walls, embedded in the worn counters, the scuffed floors, and the chairs that rock as if alive. It is a place where the past refuses to rest, where the echoes of forgotten lives linger and whisper to anyone willing to listen. The strangest aspect of Rusty Fork Junction is its silence between the disturbances. Hours can pass without movement, only for a sudden scrape of a fork or a shadow at the register to shatter the quiet. It is a place of anticipation, where the ordinary transforms into the inexplicable. And where every sound and shadow becomes a question mark. Those who leave in the early hours carry with them the weight of what they have seen. Or perhaps what they have felt, a lingering awareness that the diner is alive in ways they cannot comprehend. Rusty Fork Junction is more than a diner. It is a threshold between the familiar and the unknown. A place where curiosity collides with fear. For every story told, there are countless others left unspoken. Experiences swallowed by the darkened corners of the room. Travelers may come seeking warmth, a meal, or a break from the road. But many depart carrying a different kind of memory. One that clings to the imagination, refusing to fade with the daylight. Rusty Fork Junction is more than a diner. The next time the highway seems empty and a flickering neon sign glows in the distance, remember Rusty Fork Junction. Its walls have seen more than the casual visitor can imagine. The shadow at the register. The moving silverware. The mysterious light outside. And the scraping forks all remind us that some places keep their secrets well. And perhaps some secrets are meant to remain, quietly waiting for the next traveler bold enough to enter. The Cactus Hollow Grill sits at the edge of a forgotten desert highway, its weathered sign swinging gently in the warm wind. From a distance, the diner emits a soft orange glow, a light that promises warmth and respite. Travelers who happen upon it often remark on its strange comfort, yet something about it feels otherworldly. Those who step closer notice the heat, the inviting glow, but the source is elusive. Yet the light persists, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement and rusted signage. It is a paradox that draws the curious and the weary alike, those who seek a simple meal and those who cannot resist the pull of the unknown. Inside, the diner is frozen in time. Dust coats the counters, thick layers over the stools and tabletops, as if no one has entered for decades. Yet the aroma of fresh cornbread drifts through the air, warm and inviting. The smell is tangible, almost sweet, carrying with it the memory of countless breakfasts served and enjoyed. Some say the scent lingers long after the diner should have fallen silent. A ghostly echo of life that once thrived here. Visitors often speak of fleeting glimpses, shadows that move where no one should be. A woman appears near the corner of the kitchen, sweeping the floor with deliberate care. Her movements are fluid, practiced. But as soon as she is noticed, she vanishes, leaving the floor spotless and the broom upright. The brush of her presence is accompanied by a subtle warmth. A human touch in a space otherwise ruled by silence. The booths along the windows are empty, yet the faint sound of a bell above the door jingling can be heard. Patrons claim they feel the pressure of someone sitting beside them, a warmth on the vinyl bench, only to turn and see no one there. Conversations that were never spoken seem to echo in the corners, faint murmurs blending with the whispering wind that seeps through the cracked windows. Even the desert outside seems to respond to the diner. The sand shifts in unusual patterns, forming small, deliberate trails leading toward the glowing building. Travelers who stray too far from the road at night sometimes swear they see a light moving among the dunes, circling the diner before disappearing. The desert becomes an extension of the diner itself, an unspoken boundary between the ordinary world and the mysteries held within. Locals have long told stories of those who enter seeking warmth and sustenance, only to leave with more questions than answers. Some return to their vehicles with a sense of peace, as though touched by something benevolent. Others leave with the chill of unease, a feeling that they have witnessed more than their eyes can fully comprehend. And then there are those who do not leave at all, vanishing without a trace, their absence a testament to the diner's enigmatic pull. Photographs taken inside often capture more than the eye can see. A blurred figure in the reflection of a window, a fleeting shadow across the counter, or a small handprint that vanishes when touched. Technology struggles to contain or explain the anomalies. Phones, cameras, and even motion sensors behave unpredictably, sometimes recording events that never occurred and failing to capture moments that were undeniably real. Some theories suggest the diner is a crossroads of time, a place where past and present coexist in delicate balance. Others whisper of spirits bound by memories of routine, the scent of cornbread and the rhythmic sweep of a broom keeping them tethered to the world they once knew. Whether guardian spirits or remnants of lives long ended, the presence is palpable, a quiet insistence that this space is neither fully living nor completely gone. Even the furniture seems aware. Chairs shift slightly, rearranging themselves, as if accommodating guests who are no longer there. Plates occasionally rattle on counters, a soft metallic clatter that fades before anyone can investigate. Travelers who stay late into the night speak of a subtle music, faint and haunting, drifting through the air from nowhere. It is not a song anyone can name, but it carries a rhythm that soothes and unsettles simultaneously. The sound blends with the smell of cornbread, the warmth of invisible fire, and the ghostly sweep of the woman in the kitchen. As dawn approaches, the glow of Cactus Hollow Grill softens, fading into the desert light. Those who leave in the early hours carry with them a memory that cannot be fully explained, a sense that the diner exists in a realm just beyond ordinary perception. It waits for the next traveler, the next curious soul drawn by warmth, scent, and light that defies reason. The Cactus Hollow Grill remains a quiet sentinel at the edge of the desert, a place of mystery, memory, and subtle wonder. A place of mystery, memory, and subtle wonder. That some spaces resist explanation, that sometimes the line between the living and the spectral is thinner than we imagine, and that even in the most desolate places, echoes of life can endure in the most unexpected ways. That sometimes the line between the living and the spectral is thinner than we imagine, and that even in the most desolate places, echoes of life can endure in the most unexpected ways. And that even in the most desolate places, echoes of life can endure in the most unexpected ways. Desert Loop Diner sits alone on a stretch of road where the horizon melts into endless sand. Its neon sign flickers weakly at night, a lone beacon in the vast emptiness. Travelers who pass by often feel a pull, as if some invisible force urges them to stop, though few can explain why. The diner appears ordinary at first glance. Weathered bricks, cracked windows, and a faded sign hint at decades of use. Inside, the booths are empty, and the air smells faintly of stale coffee and dust. Yet, for reasons that escape logic, many who enter report a sense of being watched. Cars parked outside sometimes vanish without a trace. Visitors have recounted pulling into the lot and leaving their vehicles while they grab a quick meal, only to return and find the car gone. Some have called authorities, but police reports consistently confirm that no theft or foul play occurred. Cameras left recording overnight capture nothing, as if the vehicles dissolve into thin air. The phenomenon does not end with disappearing cars. On certain nights, passers-by claim to hear the roar of engines circling the diner. The sounds grow louder, echoing across the desert sand, yet when they peer outside, the parking lot is empty. Tires do not leave tracks, and the wind remains still, as if the engines exist only in the space between reality and perception. A strange, glowing light often appears as darkness settles. Witnesses describe a faint, amber glow moving in a circular pattern around the building, never crossing the threshold of the diner itself. It drifts along the sand, weaving around the structure before fading entirely. Some say the light seems to pulse, as though alive, almost watching the reactions of those nearby. Locals rarely speak of the diner. And those who do offer only cryptic warnings. They mention previous owners who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. And stories of travelers who never returned. Tourists are often intrigued, lured by curiosity. But the diner exudes an unshakable feeling of isolation. It is a place where time seems suspended. And where ordinary rules of cause and effect appear not to apply. Inside, the diner is frozen in time. The counter is polished, the menus neatly stacked, and the coffee machines gleam as though recently used. Yet there is no staff, no smell of cooking, and no indication of anyone having been present for hours, perhaps days. Patrons who linger report hearing distant conversations, laughter, and the clatter of dishes, though the rooms remain empty. The windows offer a distorted view of the outside. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the parking lot, and shapes appear in the corner of vision that vanish when looked at directly. Some who attempt to photograph the diner find the images corrupted, blurred, or inexplicably altered. Lights in the photos often glow brighter than in reality, highlighting corners that were dark to the human eye. Many have described a heavy sense of expectation when entering. It is subtle at first, a pressure on the chest or a tingling along the skin. This sensation intensifies the longer one stays. Patrons report feeling compelled to move in certain directions, as if invisible hands guide them. Some say it is not threatening, only persistent, drawing attention to corners, doors, or the distant horizon. Desert winds carry faint, unidentifiable sounds. At times, whispers drift through the air, blending with the rustling of sand. Words are unclear, yet the tone suggests urgency. Occasionally, the whispers rise to full sentences, recounting memories or fragments of conversations. As though the diner itself holds on to the voices of those who have come and gone. The diner's reputation has grown among those who chase the unexplained. Paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers venture into the desert, documenting their experiences with cameras, audio devices, and notebooks. Many leave with stories of strange lights, vanishing objects, and fleeting figures that dissolve before they can be fully perceived. Despite these accounts, no one has definitively explained what occurs at Desert Loop Diner. Some speculate that the site exists between dimensions, a thin place where reality bends. Others suggest it is a residual echo, a location that absorbs and replays fragments of the past. Theories abound, yet all fall short of capturing the full scope of its mystery. Visitors continue to be drawn, compelled by curiosity, and perhaps by the unspoken allure of the unknown. Each encounter adds to the growing tapestry of strange occurrences, building a history layered with unanswered questions. Those who leave speak of it as though touched by something extraordinary, an experience that lingers long after the desert road has returned to silence. As the sun sets, the diner seems to awaken. The neon sign flickers in time with the heartbeat of the desert. And the amber light begins its slow, hypnotic circle. Engines roar in the distance, yet nothing is visible. Cars disappear once more into the sands. And the whispers drift across the empty booths. Desert Loop Diner is not a place to be rushed. It rewards attention, patience, and an openness to the inexplicable. It exists quietly, almost politely, as though it offers a glimpse into a world beyond ordinary perception. A world that remains just out of reach for those who cannot look closely enough. Travelers may come seeking a meal, a story, or a thrill, but few leave unchanged. Some swear they hear voices calling their names long after they have driven away. And others claim to see the amber light drifting across the desert in their rearview mirrors. The diner stands still, patient, a silent observer of those who pass through its shadow. In the end, Desert Loop Diner endures as a testament to mystery. It is a place where reality blurs, where the impossible feels tangible. And where the desert itself seems to conspire with the unknown. Its story is ongoing, written in fleeting lights, whispered voices. And vanishing cars, leaving only questions for those willing to listen and look carefully at what lies just beyond the edge of comprehension. The lone plate Kaffa copyright sits quietly along a stretch of road that few travelers notice. Its neon sign flickers with a soft amber light, as if hesitating between existence and absence. The building is modest, its walls faded and weathered by years of wind and sun, yet it carries an air of expectancy. Those who stumble upon it often speak of a feeling that something is waiting for them, patiently and silently. Inside, the air is cool and still, a stark contrast to the heat and dust outside. The scent of coffee and bread hangs lightly in the air, inviting yet strangely distant. The tables are neatly arranged, but there is one detail that immediately draws attention. Every table has only one plate set. No matter how many people enter, no matter how large a group, only one plate remains perfectly positioned at the center. Any attempt to move an additional plate is futile. It slides gently back, as if guided by an unseen hand, leaving the single plate undisturbed. Leaving the single plate undisturbed. Visitors describe the experience as unsettling. The Kaffa copyright is otherwise ordinary. Chairs are polished, silverware gleams, and menus sit neatly on the counters. Yet the singular plate dominates the room, a quiet reminder that something is not as it seems. Some say the plate belongs to a traveler who never finished his final meal, a soul tied to the Kaffa copyright by unfinished business. The story is not spoken aloud, but it lingers in the air, felt more than heard. The windows of the Kaffa copyright reflect the road behind. But sometimes the reflections do not match reality. A vehicle might appear parked outside, yet vanish when looked at directly. Shadows move slightly longer than they should. And the occasional flicker of movement hints at a presence just beyond the edge of vision. The atmosphere is calm but charged. A subtle tension that draws visitors deeper into the mystery of the lone plate Kaffa copyright. Evenings bring a different energy. The amber glow of the sign casts a warm light inside, but the chill in the air grows stronger. The shadows lengthen and stretch across the floor, reaching out to corners that remain hidden from sight. Patrons who have entered at night report feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon them. The single plate seems to watch, a silent witness to every action. Those who sit across from it cannot shake the sensation that they are not entirely alone, that the kaffa copyright itself carries the memory of someone who once dined there and never left. The counter holds a register and a few stools, yet they seem almost ceremonial. Occasionally, visitors swear they see the faint outline of a figure moving behind the counter. It never speaks, never acknowledges anyone, but its presence is undeniable. The hum of lights and the faint whisper of the air system become a soundtrack to the kaffa copyright AS quiet enigma. A rhythm that lulls visitors into a state of both curiosity and unease. By day, the lone plate kaffa copyright blends almost seamlessly with its surroundings. The sun bakes the road and casts the building in a soft haze, making it appear more like a memory than a tangible location. Travelers who pass by may not even notice the sign or the door. And yet those who are meant to find it cannot resist the pull. Once inside, they experience the subtle anomalies that define the kaffa copyright. From the lone plate to the faint sense of meals that were never finished. And the sense of being observed by something just beyond perception. The stories of the kaffa copyright are countless, passed quietly from visitor to visitor. Some speak of seeing their own reflection seated across from the empty plate, a version of themselves sharing a meal that never concludes. Others feel a presence brush past them, a reminder that the singular plate is not an object but a symbol. It marks the space for someone who lingers between worlds, someone whose journey was interrupted and whose memory remains tied to this small, unassuming diner. Night deepens, and the road outside grows silent. The kaffa copyright glows faintly against the darkness. An oasis of both comfort and unease. Visitors leave with a sense of lingering curiosity. As if they have glimpsed something that cannot be fully understood. The lone plate remains in the center of the table, waiting patiently for the next traveler who may cross the threshold. The lone plate kaffa copyright is more than a building or a place to eat. It is a story, a presence, and a mystery suspended between the ordinary and the inexplicable. Those who encounter it leave changed, carrying the subtle weight of an unfinished meal and the quiet knowledge that some things are meant to remain unresolved. In the stillness of the desert, where the road stretches endlessly, the kaffa copyright waits, its lone plate a reminder of what was, what is, and what will never be completed. Midnight Lantern Diner rests at the edge of a winding country road, the kind of place travelers notice only in passing. Its wooden exterior is weathered, paint peeling, yet a single lantern hangs above the entrance, glowing softly in the night. The light sways gently, though there is no breeze, casting long shadows that stretch across the empty parking lot. Those who stop by speak of an atmosphere unlike any other. The diner is quiet, yet the air feels alive, charged with a presence that is hard to define. Stepping through the door, the warmth of a kitchen should greet visitors, yet the room holds an eerie stillness. The lantern's glow illuminates the counter, the tables, and the checkerboard floor, giving the place an ethereal quality that is both inviting and unsettling. Inside, the kitchen appears active, though the diner is empty. A cook stands by the stove, a figure translucent and motionless at first glance. Slowly, the figure begins to stir a pot, though the liquid inside never boils. The aroma of spices, bread, and roasting meats fills the room. Yet when patrons approach, there is nothing to taste or serve. Plates remain bare, and the stove gives off no heat. Yet the scent lingers, growing richer as if the diner itself breathes it into the air. The diner seems frozen in time. Old menus hang on the walls, yellowed with age. And the booths are lined with cracked leather that creaks under the slightest touch. The clocks on the wall tick inconsistently, some skipping moments, others slowing to a crawl. Others slowing to a crawl. A sensation that the world outside no longer exists once the lantern light touches the interior. Visitors speak of subtle movements that defy explanation. Chairs shift slightly, as if someone had been sitting and just stood. The steam from the invisible pot curls and rises, then vanishes before it reaches the ceiling. Shadows flicker across the walls, independent of the lanterna's light, sometimes forming shapes that resemble past diners or figures waiting to be served. The sound of soft stirring, a metallic scrape, or the gentle clink of a spoon against a pot fills the room without source. The dinner's history may explain some of its mysteries. Built in the early 20th century, it served as a gathering place for travelers and locals alike. Long after it should have fallen into disrepair, the diner remained, quietly welcoming anyone who drove the long country roads. Locals whisper of a night long ago when a fire nearly consumed the building. Accounts say the cook was a quiet figure, dedicated to serving those in need. And though the fire claimed the building's structure, some say the spirit of the cook never left. Some who have stayed late enough describe encounters with the lantern itself. Its glow brightens or dims in response to movement or sound. Patrons feel watched, though no eyes are visible. The cook continues to stir, occasionally turning just enough for a visitor to glimpse a face, pale and emotionless, yet strangely familiar. Every scent is vivid, every shadow alive. Yet attempts to interact yield no result. The diner exists in a space between reality and something else. A liminal place that refuses explanation. Cameras set up by those curious to record the phenomena. A chair moves slightly between frames. Steam rises where no heat is present. The cook's figure fades and returns, always stirring, always silent. Audio picks up faint sizzles and clinks, yet playback confirms the kitchen is empty. Visitors often leave with more questions than answers, feeling the pull of the diner long after they have driven away. The diner itself seems to guide the experience. Time inside does not align with time outside. Hours may pass, yet the sun remains in the same position or darkness never lifts. Visitors describe a quiet tension, as if the diner waits for something, or someone, to arrive. The presence is not threatening, but persistent, a gentle reminder that some places hold memories stronger than the living world. Those drawn to Midnight Lantern Diner often feel compelled by curiosity. Travelers seeking a late-night meal are caught off guard by the lingering aroma of food that will never exist. Paranormal enthusiasts come prepared, only to find that instruments cannot measure what occurs. The cook, ever stirring, embodies the mystery, a guardian of the dinner's history, silently maintaining a routine that cannot end. Even from the outside, the diner tells a story. The windows reflect faint movement, shadows that vanish when approached. The quiet hum of the country night is interrupted by whispers that seem to float from the building itself. The road beyond feels distant, unimportant, as if the diner has created a world apart, where the ordinary rules no longer apply. Midnight Lantern Diner is not a place for the casual visitor. It exists at the edge of understanding, a space where history, memory, and the unexplained converge. Every aroma, every shadow, every subtle motion carries a story. For those who enter, the experience lingers, a quiet fascination that persists long after the lantern fades from view. The next time the highway is dark and the lanterna's glow appears on the horizon, pause for a moment. The diner may be inviting, yet it holds secrets beyond the reach of ordinary perception. The cook continues to stir, the aroma drifts through the room. And the lantern hangs silently above, glowing in the night. Guarding the stories of a place that refuses to be forgotten. Rattlesnake Counter Stop perches alone along a remote stretch of desert highway, a building worn by sun and wind. Its faded paint peels like dry skin, and the windows, once clear, are clouded with decades of dust. From the outside, it looks abandoned, yet those who enter feel an unmistakable pulse of life, subtle and unnerving. The first thing visitors notice is the sound. A hissing reverberates softly from beneath the counters and along the floorboards. It rises and falls as if in conversation, yet when they look, there are no snakes. The sound twists and coils around the room, slipping behind corners and through the gaps in the ceiling, always just out of reach. It is a presence that cannot be touched but demands attention. Inside, the diner feels frozen in time. The counters are lined with cracked formica, and the stools wobble slightly as though adjusting to invisible weight. Salt shakers topple without cause, clattering against the counter, scattering grains of salt like tiny stars across the worn surface. Patrons have reported the sensation of being watched, a prickling at the back of the neck, as if the diner itself is alive and aware of every movement. The pale figure is the most unsettling. Sometimes crouched under the main counter, barely visible, it whispers for help. The voice is soft, almost drowned by the ambient hissing, yet insistent. Few have approached closely enough to see more than a thin outline, the figure's pallor almost merging with the shadows. And when they do, it disappears, leaving only the impression of someone who has been waiting for attention for far too long. Lighting inside the diner is strange and inconsistent. Lamps flicker, sometimes glowing warmly, other times dimming to near darkness. The walls seem to hum faintly, a resonance that amplifies the hissing. Each detail adds to the sense that Rattlesnake Counter Stop exists both within the world and just outside it. The tables are empty, yet the scent of stale coffee and overcooked bacon lingers, thick and sweet. Some visitors claim they smell pancakes sizzling or hear the clatter of dishes being washed in a sink that has not seen running water in years. These sensory contradictions create an atmosphere both familiar and alien, as if memories of past meals haunt the very air. Travelers often describe feeling a pull, a strange compulsion to sit at the counter or peer beneath it. The figure appears in glimpses, fleeting moments that disappear when confronted. Some say it looks frightened, others believe it is pleading for understanding or release. No one knows if it is a spirit trapped by an old tragedy or a phantom shaped by collective memory, but its presence is undeniable. The hissing intensifies at night, filling the diner with a slow, curling rhythm. Shadows shift with it, stretching along the ceiling beams and across the floor in patterns that suggest movement where there should be none. The air grows heavy, almost tangible, carrying a tension that lingers even after one leaves. Visitors report that the sound of wind outside becomes indistinguishable from the hissing within, blurring the boundary between the desert and the diner. Objects inside behave unpredictably. Cups slide across counters. Menus open to pages that were never selected. And lights respond to movement that is never visible. Technology often malfunctions in the space. Cameras fail to record the hissing. And phones lose power without reason. It is as if the diner exists on a separate plane, adhering to rules that the outside world cannot understand. Despite the strangeness, there is a draw that cannot be explained. Some visitors feel a sense of history pressing in, a story embedded in the walls and counters that begs to be acknowledged. The whispers under the counter, the shifting shadows, the falling salt, all hint at something lost, something unresolved. The diner holds a record of time in fragments, a place where the ordinary intersects with the inexplicable. Local lore tells of travelers who vanished after lingering too long. Their vehicles were found abandoned along the highway, untouched and running. But the occupants were gone. Whether drawn into the diner itself or pulled along with the hissing that coils like a serpent through the desert, no one knows. These stories have only deepened the mystique, cementing Rattlesnake Counter Stop as a waypoint for the curious and the brave. As dawn approaches, the hissing fades, and the diner settles into a quiet stillness. The pale figure disappears beneath the counter, leaving no trace but a lingering sense of presence. Shadows shrink, the air lightens, and the desert outside glimmers under the rising sun. Yet even in daylight, the diner retains a subtle pull, a quiet reminder that the strange and the unexplained are never far away. Rattlesnake counter stop endures as a monument to the unknown. A place where hissing fills empty spaces, figures linger in shadows, and the ordinary is never quite what it seems. Those who encounter it carry the memory forward, a whisper of mystery lingering in their minds, and a reminder that some places exist beyond reason, inviting those who seek to witness what lies hidden beneath the surface of reality. Sand Drift Diner rests alone on an endless stretch of desert. A small oasis of steel and glass slowly yielding to the encroaching sand. Each year, the dunes claim a little more of the building, swallowing its corners. By day, it appears worn, half-buried, a relic teetering on the edge. Of disappearance by day, it appears worn, half-buried, a relic teetering. But when night falls, the diner seems to defy the desert itself. The diner seems to defy the desert itself. It rises again, fully intact, clean, and brightly lit as though time has reversed. Neon lights hum softly against the dark horizon. And the warm glow from the windows spills over the sand. The effect is hypnotic, an impossible transformation that draws travelers from distant roads. Visitors who enter feel an immediate shift in the air. The scent of fresh coffee and sizzling breakfast wafts through the dining area. As if the kitchen had never closed. No waitstaff, no cooks, no explanation for the sudden restoration. Sounds drift through the diner in ways that defy logic. Laughter echoes from corners of the room, cheerful and light, belonging to a family long absent from the world. The voices are reminiscent of a simpler era, the 1960s, carrying with them the warmth of shared meals and quiet conversations. Some visitors report glimpses of figures moving behind the counter or through the booths, yet when approached, the shapes vanish as if swallowed by the air itself. Windows reveal a desert unchanged, empty and silent except for the gentle sway of the dunes. But shadows shift unnaturally, stretching across the sand and flickering like candlelight. Some who linger near the glass swear they see movement along the horizon. Others claim the sand itself seems to ripple beneath unseen feet, leaving faint impressions that disappear before anyone can follow them. The diner has its own rhythm. By day, it sinks slowly, buried beneath the desert's weight. And by night it returns, immaculate and welcoming. It is as though the building lives by a different clock, a pulse independent of the world around it. Travelers who watch this transformation describe a sense of awe, combined with unease. As if witnessing the impossible made real. Local stories abound, though they are shared sparingly. They disappeared without warning in the 1960s, leaving behind only memories and rumors. Some say the diner itself carries their essence, a lingering echo that refuses to fade. Others suggest the building is a gateway, a place where past and present intersect, allowing fleeting glimpses of what once was. Those who stay through the night often find the atmosphere oddly comforting. The hum of the lights, the clatter of invisible dishes, and the faint music from an old radio. Combine into a sensory tapestry that feels lived in yet intangible. It is impossible to explain why the diner feels inhabited, yet it does, offering warmth and familiarity amidst the isolation of the desert. The dining area reveals subtle details to those who look closely. Chairs appear slightly moved from their original positions. Menus show handwriting that no one has used in decades. And the silverware glimmers as though polished by unseen hands. Patrons often notice these changes in real time. Yet the diner never seems chaotic or unkempt. Everything is arranged with a precision that suggests awareness, intelligence, and care. Outside, the desert seems to listen. Wind whispers across the dunes, carrying with it soft echoes of laughter, footsteps, and the distant hum of a car engine. The environment itself contributes to the diner's strange energy, blending isolation with the comforting sounds of home. Those who spend the night describe moments of disorientation, where they cannot tell whether they are inside or outside, awake or dreaming. Sand Drift Diner continues to captivate the imagination of travelers and investigators alike. Paranormal enthusiasts visit with cameras, audio devices, and notebooks, attempting to capture evidence of the inexplicable. Footage often reveals anomalies, shadows where none should exist, lights flickering independently, or faint figures appearing and disappearing in the corner of the frame. No theory fully explains the phenomenon, leaving the diner shrouded in mystery. The diner's allure is subtle yet undeniable. Visitors are drawn not only by curiosity but by a sense of anticipation. The hope of witnessing something extraordinary. Each encounter builds upon the last, adding new layers to the legend of a building that defies the passage of time and the encroachment of the desert. As night deepens, the diner stands fully restored, a sanctuary of light and warmth in the vast darkness. Laughter drifts across the floor, plates clatter in distant booths, and the faint scent of cooking fills the air. Travelers watch in silence, caught between awe and disbelief, feeling the presence of those long gone and yet somehow still near. Sand Drift Diner is more than a building. It is a living echo, a monument to memory. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. And a reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. Those who visit are changed as it continues its endless cycle of disappearance and return. A beacon of mystery in the heart of the desert. Each night, it rises from the sands, carrying stories, laughter, and moments frozen in time. For anyone traveling the empty roads, the diner offers a promise. A place to witness the impossible. To hear the laughter of a family that vanished decades ago. And to feel the pulse of a building that exists beyond ordinary understanding. Sand Drift Diner endures as a quiet testament to the strange and the extraordinary. A luminous presence in a landscape otherwise defined by silence and sand. The Red Moon Eatery rests quietly at the edge of a winding desert road, a place travelers often pass without noticing. Its weathered wooden sign creaks in the wind, the paint faded but still recognizable against the backdrop of sand and scrub. Locals speak of it with a mix of caution and awe, for the eatery is no ordinary roadside stop. It awakens fully only under the light of a full moon, when the desert night glows with silver and the sky turns deep indigo. It awakens fully only under the light of a full moon, when the desert night glows with silver and the sky turns deep indigo. As night falls, the windows begin to pulse with a crimson light. The red glow casts long shadows across the parking lot, illuminating the sand and rocks with an unnatural warmth. Those who approach often describe a sense of anticipation, a feeling that the building itself is alive, waiting for visitors who may or may not be meant to enter. The air carries a chill that seems to creep across the floor, brushing against ankles and stirring the hair on the back of the neck. Inside, the eatery is perfectly arranged, yet eerily silent. Tables are polished, chairs neatly tucked under, and plates gleam under the dim red light. Yet the chairs do not remain still. They rock gently, back and forth, as if guided by invisible hands. The sound is soft but deliberate, a rhythmic motion that fills the space with subtle tension. Visitors feel watched, though no one else is present. Every step echoes faintly, and the air smells faintly of something sweet, like freshly baked bread, even though the kitchen appears untouched for years. Patrons who have dared to enter during the full moon report strange phenomena that cannot easily be explained. Red handprints appear on car windows, smeared and dripping in a way that seems impossible yet undeniable. The prints are often accompanied by a sensation of cold fingers brushing the glass, lingering long after the driver has left. Some wake to find footprints leading to the eatery and disappearing just as suddenly, leaving no trace of the passage of a visitor. The atmosphere inside the Red Moon Eatery is at once inviting and unsettling. The tables are set as if expecting a meal to begin, yet the diners never arrive. Some travelers claim to see fleeting figures out of the corner of their eye, shadows moving between tables, bending light, and disappearing when directly observed. The ceiling fans move slowly despite the absence of wind, and the faint hum of the neon sign filters in like a heartbeat, marking time in a space that seems suspended between the ordinary and the unknown. Many visitors describe a feeling of being drawn deeper into the eatery, compelled to explore corners of the building they did not intend to enter. The red glow amplifies every detail, painting the room in deep crimson that transforms the mundane into something otherworldly. Reflections in mirrors and windows often show more than the visitor expects. Sometimes a figure appears where none should be, sitting silently or watching from the edge of perception. The desert night outside is calm, but the eatery thrums with quiet energy. Chairs scrape softly across the floor without anyone moving them. Plates occasionally shift, tilting slightly as if someone unseen had adjusted them. The combination of red light, sudden movement, and silence creates an atmosphere thick with tension, where every shadow feels alive and every breath carries the weight of anticipation. As the full moon reaches its apex, the Red Moon Eatery seems to pulse with life. Travelers who linger too long report a sense of timelessness, as though minutes stretch into hours and the ordinary rules of reality no longer apply. Some claim to hear whispers carried across the tables, words indistinct yet filled with intent. The red light casts deep shadows, giving depth to corners where figures may be hiding or memories may linger. The experience leaves many with a sense of awe, tinged with unease, and a feeling that they have witnessed something extraordinary yet incomprehensible. When dawn approaches, the crimson glow begins to fade. The rocking chairs slow and finally come to rest. Any prints or traces left behind on cars or in the sand vanish with the morning sun. The eatery settles into quiet dormancy, as if nothing had occurred, waiting patiently for the next full moon to awaken its mysteries once more. Travelers leave with more questions than answers, carrying the memory of red light, moving chairs, and unseen presences that defy explanation. The Red Moon Eatery is more than a roadside coffee copyright. It is a liminal space, a threshold between the ordinary world and something else entirely. Those who encounter it are forever changed, haunted not by fear, but by the enigmatic presence of a place that exists on its own terms. In the stillness of the desert, under the light of a full moon, the eatery waits, a sentinel of mystery, ready to reveal its secrets only to those who come seeking, yet perhaps, to those it chooses itself. The quiet skillet rests at the end of a narrow, winding road, far from the bustling towns and highways. Its faded sign swings gently in the wind, and the windows reflect the fading light of dusk. On the surface, it appears as a simple, unassuming diner. Yet those who know the stories avoid it, speaking only in whispers of a presence that lingers within its walls. Inside, the silence is immediate. Footsteps echo across the floor, bouncing from the walls hundreds of times before fading into stillness. Each sound is amplified, a reminder that the building is more than just wood and brick. Patrons who have entered describe a sense of being watched, a subtle awareness that something moves just out of view, gliding across the floor without a sound of its own. A figure appears in the corner, tall and thin, dressed in a white apron that seems too clean, too bright against the worn interior. He moves slowly, deliberately, as if suspended between moments. His presence is unnerving, not because of aggression, but because of its perfection. Every step is precise, every movement fluid. Yet his smile is fixed, too wide, frozen in place, stretching unnaturally across a face that should be human but feels distant, almost unreal. The dinner's interior is old, with scuffed wooden floors, cracked booths, and a counter that gleams under the dim glow of the overhead lights. The smell of fried food lingers, but no food appears. Plates and silverware are in place, ready to serve, yet untouched. The quiet amplifies the smallest sounds, the scrape of a chair, the subtle clink of utensils, the hum of an old refrigerator. Every sound carries weight, building a tension that presses against the walls and the hearts of those inside. Time inside the quiet skillet behaves strangely. Minutes stretch into hours, and the world beyond the windows seems to vanish. The figure in the apron glides from the kitchen to the tables, never speaking, never blinking, yet always present. Some patrons claim to have seen him standing by the counter for hours, staring at them with the same fixed, wide smile. Movement elsewhere stops when he approaches, as if the diner itself bends to his presence. Locals tell of the dinner's past. Built decades ago, it served as a gathering place for families and travelers. A small beacon along an otherwise empty road. Stories speak of a cook who loved his work too much. Who stayed long after closing, perfecting each dish for invisible guests. The diner changed hands several times. Yet the atmosphere remained the same. Those who tried to modernize or renovate often left quickly. Unsettled by an intangible feeling they could not name. Visitors recount moments that defy explanation. A table may shift slightly between glances. A chair moves where no one has touched it. The figure in the apron appears in different locations, as if passing through walls or bending the space around him. Sometimes his smile seems to widen further, stretching in a way that does not match the human face, a silent acknowledgement that he knows the observers are there. Cameras set up by the curious capture fleeting images. Shadows stretch unnaturally, reflecting shapes that vanish when investigated. Audio records the echo of footsteps long after the room has emptied, or the scrape of a knife against a plate that remains untouched. Footage often shows the figure in the apron in the background, frozen in position, yet moving subtly when the observer is not looking directly. The diner's charm is eerie, and yet it draws the brave or the curious. Travelers seeking a late-night meal are captivated by the silence and the atmosphere. The air hangs heavy and thick with anticipation. Paranormal enthusiasts come prepared, yet instruments fail to measure the presence accurately. It is not aggressive or threatening, but it is persistent, a quiet force that commands attention without words. The physical space of the diner mirrors the presence within it. The lights flicker occasionally, shadows stretching and bending unnaturally. The smell of food, savory and warm, persists without origin. Even the air itself feels alive, charged with the memory of decades, with the imprint of countless steps and lingering movements that refuse to fade. Visitors often leave the quiet skillet unsettled but fascinated. The memory of the wide, frozen smile lingers in the mind long after departure. Every footstep, every sound, every flicker of shadow becomes a puzzle to consider, a fragment of a story that the diner has been telling for decades. Some drive away without looking back, while others cannot resist glancing at the glowing windows in the darkness, hoping to catch a final glimpse of the figure gliding silently through the space. The quiet skillet is more than a diner. Is a place where time slows. Where time carries weight. And where the ordinary rules of the world are suspended. Memories that cannot be disturbed. Secrets that remain beyond understanding. Next time the road is empty and a dim light glows in the distance, consider the quiet skillet. Its doors may appear inviting, but inside waits a presence that has endured for decades, silent and watchful. Footsteps echo endlessly, a figure glides with a fixed smile. And the diner stands as a monument to moments that cannot be forgotten. A place where the quiet itself is alive. Trail Dust Diner rests quietly along a winding country road, a relic of a bygone era where dust and sunlight coat every surface. Its wooden siding bears the marks of years exposed to wind and rain, faded paint peeling in curling layers. From the outside, it seems ordinary, a roadside stop offering shade and a moment of respite. Yet those who enter sense immediately that the diner is anything but typical. Inside, the air is still, yet the menus on the tables turn their pages as if guided by invisible hands. They shift slowly, deliberately, revealing options that are familiar yet somehow changed. Visitors often glance around, expecting a breeze or the brush of another patron, but the room remains calm, quiet, untouched. The movement is subtle, hypnotic, and impossible to ignore, a gentle reminder that the diner moves to its own rhythm. The scent of coffee hangs in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of cornbread and fresh pastries. Some visitors swear they hear the clink of cutlery on plates or the faint scrape of chairs across the wooden floor. Yet the diner is empty. Every sound is soft, distant, almost as if coming from another time. From the corner of the room drifts a melody, old country songs that weave through the air without origin. The music rises and falls, notes curling around the tables and counter, filling the diner with a sense of nostalgia and melancholy. Guests often pause in mid-step, listening, feeling both comforted and unsettled by the disembodied music. The ghostly waitress appears when least expected, gliding silently through the space. Her uniform is faded, her expression serene yet distant. Tending tables, straightening menus. Her lips move in silent sentences, the meaning lost to time. It is a performance, ritualistic and unhurried, that both fascinates and unnerves those who witness it. The lighting within the diner is muted, sunlight filtering through dusty windows, catching motes of dust that hang suspended in the air. Shadows stretch and shift in subtle ways, elongating along the walls and across the floorboards. The booths, tables, and counters feel lived in, as though countless patrons had departed only moments ago. Yet when one approaches, the space is empty, the past present only in sensation and memory. Visitors describe a strange sensation of being watched without fear, a presence that is patient and attentive. They feel the diner observing them, welcoming and cautious all at once. Plates sometimes tremble on the tables, salt and pepper shakers topple as though nudged by unseen fingers. Yet there is no malice, only the quiet insistence that the diner is alive in its own way, aware of every movement, every whisper, every breath taken within its walls. Even the air seems charged with history. The smell of polished wood and old coffee mingles with faint traces of meals long forgotten. Patrons sometimes hear the shuffle of footsteps approaching, then fading, leaving a lingering warmth in the space. It is as if the diner holds the memory of every guest who has crossed its threshold, a repository of fleeting moments and untold stories. The diner's presence extends beyond the physical. Those who linger feel time slowing, each minute stretching and folding in unusual ways. Conversations and movements are muted, slowed, altered. As if the diner itself controls the passage of hours. Visitors find themselves drawn to corners of the room they did not intend to explore. Noticing details overlooked at first glance. Discovering histories embedded in the scratches of tables and the curves of the chairs. Some travelers have left feeling inexplicably comforted, carrying with them the sense of a brief communion with something larger than themselves. Others leave with unease, haunted by glimpses of the waitress or the soft, drifting music that lingers in their minds. There are those who return, compelled by curiosity, drawn to the diner like moths to a soft and steady flame. At night, the diner seems to glow from within, a warmth that contrasts with the cool desert darkness outside. The music becomes clearer, the movement of menus more deliberate, and the ghostly waitress more defined. Shadows stretch into the corners, long and protective, as if the diner itself is shielding its secrets from the outside world. Those who witness it in the late hours speak of a strange serenity, a place that feels suspended between the known and the unknown. Trail Dust Diner endures as a space of memory and mystery, a crossroad between past and present. Where the ordinary meets the inexplicable. Every hissing page, every drifting note, every silent gesture contributes to the story of the diner, a story without end. Waiting quietly for the next traveler to step inside and discover what lies just beyond perception. The Sidewinder stop sits at the edge of a long, winding road where the desert meets jagged cliffs. Its faded wooden sign sways in the wind, creaking softly like a warning. The building seems ordinary by day, a small roadside eatery with chipped paint and dusty windows. But travelers who linger often speak of unease, a sensation that something in the air is not quite right. Visitors report a chilling presence from the moment they approach. People walking by sometimes feel cold breath on their necks, sudden and sharp, as if Samania or Somthinga is standing just behind them. The wind carries no such cold, and the desert sun offers no reprieve. Those who glance over their shoulders rarely see anything, yet the sensation remains, pressing against the skin and drawing attention to corners where shadows gather. Inside, the diner is quiet, almost too quiet. The air smells faintly of frying oil and old wood, mingled with a cleaner scent that seems out of place. Knives hang along the walls, gleaming under dim light. Some say the knives always turn toward the nearest exit, tilting inch by inch as if aware of the presence of strangers. Lighting in the diner is inconsistent, flickering with a rhythm that feels almost intentional. When the bulbs sputter, shadows stretch across the walls and ceiling, taking shapes that defy normal perception. A figure may appear to crawl along the overhead beams, dark and elongated, vanishing the moment anyone tries to focus on it. The effect is unsettling, creating the sense that the diner is alive, observing, and responding to the people inside. Patrons describe small, inexplicable occurrences. Chairs may shift slightly from their original positions, or a plate might rattle without a hand near it. A plate might rattle without a hand near it, and the hum of the refrigerator can rise or fall suddenly, as though breathing in the silence. Glasses occasionally clink together on their own, and the hum of the refrigerator can rise or fall suddenly, as though breathing in the silence. The hum of the refrigerator can rise or fall suddenly, as though breathing in the silence. It is subtle, but the cumulative effect is enough to make even the most rational visitor question their surroundings. The windows offer glimpses of the outside world that seem warped. Shadows stretch across the parking lot in ways the sun should not allow. Shapes flicker along the edge of vision, sometimes resembling figures crouching or moving swiftly behind the glass. Those who step outside often feel the same chill that follows visitors inside, a cold that sinks into the bones and seems to linger long after leaving the lot. Local lore adds layers to the dinner's eerie reputation. Stories speak of travelers who entered and never returned. Of figures glimpsed through the windows at night. And of a persistent shadow that moves along the ceiling when no one is near. Residents warn outsiders to respect the building's rhythm. To not linger past sunset. And to be cautious of the feeling that someone is always just out of reach. Despite these warnings, the diner draws curiosity seekers and investigators. Paranormal enthusiasts arrive with cameras, audio recorders, and notebooks, attempting to capture evidence of the unexplained. Some record faint voices in empty rooms, or the scraping of metal along wood when no one is present. Others capture shadows that appear and vanish without logical cause, or light that seems to bend around objects in impossible ways. The Sidewinder stop has its own strange logic. It is unchanging yet unpredictable, offering a pattern of disturbances that repeat but never exactly the same way. Some visitors report an almost conscious energy in the building, an awareness that guides the shadows, the lights, and the subtle movements of objects. It is as if the diner itself has memory and intent, responding to those who cross its threshold. Time inside the diner feels distorted. Seconds stretch and contract without warning. A short visit can feel like hours, while an entire evening may pass in the blink of an eye. Visitors sometimes leave with the sensation that they have been both observed and protected. Caught in a space that is neither fully threatening nor entirely welcoming. A place where ordinary rules of perception do not fully apply. It exists in a liminal zone between reality and something else. A place where the boundaries between time and space are blurred. Where the past, present, and future converge. And the laws of physics are twisted and distorted. Sound is a crucial part of the experience. The flickering lights often accompany soft creaks and murmurs that cannot be traced to any source. The scrape of knives, the rattle of glasses, and the whisper of wind through cracks in the walls combine into an auditory tapestry that heightens awareness. Even those who remain calm feel the tension rise and fall with the subtle symphony of noises, as if the diner itself is performing a ritual in response to human presence. At night, the diner transforms further. Shadows grow longer and deeper, crawling across the walls and ceiling with a deliberate grace. Lights flicker in complex patterns, revealing corners that seem to stretch into impossible depths. Knives twist slowly toward exits, and the cold brush on the neck becomes more pronounced, like a silent warning to respect boundaries. Those who remain report a heightened awareness of every movement, every sound, every shift in the air. The allure of the Sidewinder stop is both fascination and fear. It is a place that invites observation, yet demands caution. Each visitor contributes to the unfolding story of the diner. Adding experiences, sensations, and fleeting images that cannot be fully explained. The building holds these moments in its walls. In the patterns of light and shadow. In the cold that lingers long after leaving. The diner endures as a testament to the strange and the mysterious. A beacon of curiosity, an enigma that resists understanding. Those who pass by may hear the scrape of metal, the laughter of shadows, or the whispered warning of a place that watches and waits. And while many leave puzzled, every person who enters carries a memory of the Sidewinder stop, a lingering awareness of a place that bends reality in ways subtle and profound. In the quiet moments before sunrise, the diner rests. Shadows retreat, lights stabilize, and the air grows still. But the building waits, patient and vigilant, ready to respond to the next visitor. It is an enduring mystery, a liminal space where perception shifts, and where the ordinary becomes extraordinary in the presence of the unexplained. The Sidewinder stop is not just a diner. It is a living enigma, a silent observer. And a threshold into something beyond the everyday. Travelers who pass its doors may never fully comprehend what they have encountered. But they carry with them the memory of cold breaths, shifting knives, and shadows that crawl across the ceiling. A haunting presence that lingers long after the desert road has returned to silence. The Canyon Echo Kaffa copyright sits tucked between two steep sandstone cliffs, where the desert wind carves deep shadows across the canyon floor. Its wooden exterior blends with the ochre rocks, and the faint scent of coffee drifts across the sparse landscape, inviting yet oddly distant. Travelers often stumble upon it by chance, drawn by the warmth of lights and the strange stillness that surrounds the building. Upon entering, the first thing most notice is the sound. Every noise seems to linger, stretching across the room before returning in perfect clarity. A door creaks open, and the echo follows, repeating just behind the original sound. If a visitor laughs, the echo laughs louder, reverberating through the Kaffa copyright as if the building itself shares in the amusement. A whisper seems to hang in the air, then returns with perfect timing, mirroring the tone and rhythm with uncanny precision. The interior is unassuming yet meticulous. Sunlight filters through tall windows, casting angular beams across the dusty floor. The air carries a mix of roasted coffee and faint spices. Comforting but infused with an undercurrent of the unexplained. Visitors report that the echoes are more than simple reflections of sound. The voices seem to respond to intention, sometimes answering before a question is even fully formed. A soft sigh escapes someone at the counter, and the echo sighs again, deeper and resonant. The effect is mesmerizing, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. It draws attention to every detail, forcing awareness of the smallest sounds, the movement of hands, the shuffle of feet across the floor. As the day progresses, the canyon outside hums with quiet wind. Yet inside the Kaffa copyright, the echoes become pronounced, almost sentient. Conversations bounce between walls and ceilings, repeating syllables and phrases with perfect timing. Even silence is echoed, a faint hum of expectation, as though the building waits for someone to break it. Visitors find themselves listening more closely, attuned to the rhythm of sound that exists in this space alone. The corners of the Kaffa copyright hold shadows that seem to shift in response to noise. A dropped spoon does not simply clatter, it speaks through the echo, its metallic ring extending and deepening, filling the space like a subtle pulse. A cough returns sharper, a quiet step sounds exaggerated, and even laughter is amplified in ways that unsettle the mind. The Canyon Echo Kaffa copyright does not merely repeat, it transforms sound into an experience, creating a heightened awareness of reality itself. Some travelers who linger too long report a strange disorientation. Minutes stretch unpredictably, and the echoes sometimes overlap, layering voices and sounds in complex, almost musical patterns. The repetition creates a rhythm that is simultaneously soothing and disconcerting, drawing visitors deeper into the phenomenon without clear explanation. Each sound carries the weight of presence, a reminder that the Kaffa copyright is aware of every movement, every expression, every breath. The kitchen is quiet, yet the faint clatter of utensils and the hiss of a coffee machine are echoed even when no one is present. Visitors sometimes hear the echo of a conversation that was never spoken, a voice shaped like their own but unfamiliar. The effect is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, until awareness sharpens and the boundaries between original sound and repetition blur. The kapha copyright becomes a space where perception itself is questioned, where the act of hearing becomes an intimate part of the experience. Where the act of hearing becomes an intimate part of the experience. As evening falls, the canyon darkens and the kapha copyright glows softly against the backdrop of stone and sky. Shadows deepen, and the echoes seem to stretch further, reaching across tables and into corners that remain unseen. Patrons who sit quietly often feel a presence responding to their thoughts, the echoes reinforcing their sense of being heard in ways impossible elsewhere. Even when alone, no sound seems singular, the space carries it, repeats it, transforms it. When visitors leave, the echoes follow faintly into the canyon air. As though the building gently releases them back into the world. Travelers often remark on the lingering sensation of sound. A memory of laughter and whispers, footsteps and sighs. That remain attached to the mind long after the kapha copyright is out of sight. The Canyon Echo Kapha copyright is not simply a place to eat or rest. Where reality and perception intersect. Where sound becomes more than noise. And where every visitor is reminded of the strange, resonant power of an environment alive with its own voice. In the stillness of the desert, between towering cliffs and the wide-open sky. The Canyon Echo Kapha copyright waits patiently. It waits for the next traveler to enter, to speak, to move, and to discover. To discover the resonance of a place that listens, repeats, and transforms. It is a kapha copyright that exists as much in sound as in structure. A mysterious sanctuary where every whisper, every laugh, every sigh becomes part of an endless, echoing conversation with the canyon itself. Painted Sky Diner sits along a quiet stretch of road, its exterior bright with pastel colors that catch the last rays of the sun. But as night falls, the atmosphere shifts, taking on a subtle, otherworldly quality that makes locals avert their gaze and hurriedly pass by. Inside, the diner is alive in ways that defy explanation. A massive mural stretches across every wall, depicting a lively town beneath a painted sky, figures walking, chatting, and working. Yet visitors speak of movement within the mural. Figures shift slightly from one evening to the next, gestures changing as if frozen in mid-motion, eyes that seem to follow those who sit too long in one place. Some patrons have reported seeing faces pressed against the painted windows, small details that vanish when approached. A child in the mural might turn to glance at a dinner-esque corner. Or a shopkeeper may seem to lean closer to the painted streets. No matter how carefully one inspects the walls. Revealing their secrets only after dusk. The diner itself is quiet, yet every sound carries unnaturally far. Footsteps echo across the linoleum floor, bouncing from the walls, creating a sense of a much larger crowd than actually exists. The clink of cutlery and the hum of a distant refrigerator seem amplified, layered with the faint impression of whispered voices. Patrons describe a feeling of being observed, not by a person, but by the very environment surrounding them. Painted Sky Diner has been in operation for decades. Its history is layered, though largely unremarkable on paper. Built in the 1950s, it became a hub for travelers and local residents alike. The mural was commissioned shortly after the diner opened, a gift from a traveling artist who vanished shortly thereafter. Locals recall that the artist was unusually meticulous, insisting that every face and gesture in the mural convey a moment of life. Whether intentionally or not, some believe the painter captured something more than simple likenesses. Visitors who linger late into the evening often describe a sense of time bending inside the diner. Minutes stretch, conversations fade, and the outside world feels distant. Patrons may notice a hand resting on a window ledge differently than it had before, or the angle of a head turning slightly toward the center of the room. These details are fleeting, subtle enough to provoke curiosity, yet undeniable to those who witness them. Cameras left in the diner capture strange phenomena as well. Shadows stretch and bend independently of the light. And the figures in the mural occasionally appear in different positions when reviewed later. Audio recordings pick up soft, indiscernible whispers. Faint footsteps. And even the occasional creak of a door that has not been opened. While nothing overtly threatening occurs, the experience leaves a lasting impression, a mixture of wonder and unease. The diner's staff is well aware of the unusual activity, yet they treat it as a part of the environment. Plates and silverware are handled normally, the kitchen operates as usual, and the day-to-day rhythm of the diner continues without interruption. However, those who work the late shift speak of subtle signs of the mural's life. Occasionally, a figure in the painting appears closer to a doorway, or the painted eyes seem to track a person across the floor. Even long-term staff report a strange, persistent awareness, a feeling that the diner watches them as much as they watch it. The quiet moments between customers are some of the most unsettling. The diner feels alive yet paused, a snapshot of a world frozen but never static. The painted sky glows softly under the lights, clouds shifting imperceptibly, the sun and moon appearing in slightly different positions from one evening to the next. Patrons often sit in silence, mesmerized by the mural, drawn into a sense that they are part of a story unfolding beyond the ordinary. Despite its eerie qualities, Painted Sky Diner continues to attract the curious. Travelers looking for a meal, paranormal enthusiasts, and locals with a taste for the mysterious all find themselves stepping inside. The experience is more contemplative than frightening, inviting visitors to notice small changes, to watch and listen, and to wonder at the subtle interplay between reality and art. Every detail, from the faintest flicker of light to the soft movement within the mural, becomes part of a narrative that the diner seems determined to tell. The exterior of the diner mirrors the strangeness within. The painted walls glow differently at night, the colors taking on a spectral hue, and the windows seem darker, reflecting more than the road and sky outside. Shadows linger in corners, not cast by anything obvious, and the quiet hum of the building gives a sense of life beneath the surface. Even the air feels charged, carrying the faint aroma of food, paint, and something intangible, a presence that seems both old and attentive. Painted Sky Diner is a place of observation and curiosity, where the mundane intersects with the inexplicable. Visitors leave with lingering impressions, stories of subtle movement, and the feeling of eyes watching them from painted faces. Time spent inside stretches and folds, and every sound, shadow, and gesture adds to the dinner-esque quiet, persistent enigma. Next time a road seems empty and a pastel building appears on the horizon, consider Painted Sky Diner. Its walls hold stories that shift when night falls. The mural is alive in ways that defy understanding. And every visitor leaves carrying a memory that lingers. A sense that the painted sky watches and waits, inviting them to return and witness what changes with the coming night. Old Traveller's retreat appears where it should not. Drivers along the long, empty stretches of highway report glimpsing its weathered sign, before it vanishes and reappears in the rearview mirror. One moment it is ahead, offering shelter and a warm glow. The next, it is beside them, casting shadows across the road in impossible angles. The diner seems to move with the travelers, bending the rules of space and distance. A place untethered from the ordinary flow of the world. Approaching the building, the familiar scent of coffee and frying bacon fills the air. The sun sets low against the horizon, casting long shadows through the cracked windows. Inside, the diner is pristine, almost frozen in time. Booths with cracked leather upholstery line the walls. The counters gleam as though polished only moments ago, yet dust gathers in corners, evidence of a place that has existed simultaneously in motion and stillness. The clocks are the most disorienting feature. They hang on every wall, their hands spinning rapidly in wild, erratic circles. Seconds stretch into minutes, minutes collapse into seconds. When a visitor blinks, time halts entirely, only to resume with a jolt. Patrons report feeling caught between moments, a sensation that is both exhilarating and unnerving. It is as though the diner has its own rhythm, separate from the world outside, a pulse that governs everything within. The servers move quietly among the tables. Their motions are deliberate, graceful, and almost mechanical. Some say they catch glimpses of figures that fade when noticed directly, leaving empty spaces in the air where a presence had seemed to exist. There is a strange tension in the diner, a sense that it is aware of every movement, every glance, every heartbeat. It is a place that observes as much as it is observed, a silent participant in the lives of those who wander inside. Visitors speak of the windows as mirrors into impossible spaces. One moment, a barren stretch of desert glimmers beyond the glass. The next, a forested road twists and turns as if folding back upon itself. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the floor, bending around corners and furniture. The light within the diner shifts with uncanny precision, illuminating areas that seem most likely to draw attention while leaving others submerged in deep, reflective darkness. The air is rich with smells that evoke memory and longing. Coffee brewed just moments ago mingles with the faint aroma of fresh bread. Yet the ovens and coffee makers remain cold and silent. Chairs scrape softly along the floors, moving on their own, and menus flutter as if caught in a breeze that cannot be felt. The diner engages every sense, creating a world that feels tangible yet defies explanation. Patrons often feel a dislocation in their bodies, a subtle sensation of floating between spaces. Conversations seem slowed or accelerated, speech echoing with a resonance that is not entirely natural. Time itself is malleable here. Those who enter may leave minutes later, though the journey outside the diner might have taken hours, or the opposite. There is no clear rule, only the experience of being in a place that exists between moments, untethered and unpredictable. Despite its strangeness, the diner exudes a quiet allure. Travelers linger, drawn by the warmth of light and scent. The soft clatter of dishes and cups, the gentle hum of invisible appliances. There is an almost hypnotic quality to its presence, a comfort that belies the uncertainty of its existence. It feels like a safe haven, yet one that requires respect, a place that will not be rushed or forced. The clocks continue their relentless spin. Shadows and light intertwine, casting shapes that seem to tell stories of other travelers, other times, other possibilities. Some patrons report seeing fleeting reflections of themselves, older or younger, moving with the rhythm of the diner. It is a liminal place, a threshold between reality and memory, between the familiar and the inexplicable. When night falls fully, the diner glows softly from within, a beacon in the darkness. Travelers who stay until the early hours often describe a profound sense of peace, the kind that comes from brief communion with something larger than themselves. The diner becomes a quiet observer, a host to those who seek a place beyond ordinary time. Old Traveller's retreat remains at the edge of perception, a place that cannot be mapped, fully measured, or explained. It appears when needed, vanishes when sought, and exists in a delicate balance between the seen and unseen. Those who encounter it carry its memory long after they leave, a reminder that some spaces defy reason, that time and distance are not absolute, and that the road sometimes leads to places where the impossible feels undeniably real. Dustgrave Diner sits quietly at the edge of a weathered road, its foundations resting near an old, forgotten cemetery. The building appears ordinary at first glance, with cracked windows, faded paint, and a rusted sign swaying gently in the wind. Yet those who venture inside quickly sense that the diner is anything but normal. Cold gusts of wind sweep through the dining area, brushing against skin and stirring dust into faint, spiraling patterns. The air carries a chill that seems to originate from nowhere, as if the diner itself exhales icy breaths into the empty space. Patrons often shiver despite the warmth of the sun outside, and the sensation lingers long after they leave. The sensation lingers long after they leave. The floors are thick with layers of dust, untouched and undisturbed for weeks or even months. Yet faint footprints appear seemingly at random, forming slowly across the surface. Those who attempt to follow the tracks find them vanishing beneath their feet, as if the diner itself does not allow the patterns to be traced. Chairs occasionally move without explanation. A visitor might step away from a booth for a moment, only to return and find a seat dragged across the floor as though an invisible presence is preparing for someone to sit. The sound of wood scraping against tile echoes unnervingly in the otherwise silent diner, reinforcing the impression that the building is alive in subtle and unnerving ways. Windows provide a view of the cemetery just beyond the parking lot, a stretch of weathered headstones and sun-bleached markers rising from the sand. Shadows seem to gather there, shifting slowly in the corner of vision. Some claim that the air between the diner and the graves carries whispers, faint and indecipherable, as though the souls resting there are curious about the living who venture so close. Lighting inside Dustgrave Diner is inconsistent, flickering softly as if struggling against an unseen force. When the bulbs dim, the shadows lengthen, stretching across walls and corners in unnatural patterns. Patrons describe a strange rhythm to the sounds within the diner. The hum of the refrigerator may swell and fall without warning. The creak of the ceiling beams resonates at odd intervals. And the faint scuff of movement across the floor seems synchronized with the flicker of the lights. All of it contributes to the sense that the diner is aware of those inside, observing, adjusting, and responding to their presence in subtle ways. The diner's layout adds to the unease. Hallways stretch a little longer than expected. Doorways angle slightly off-center. Corners seem to hold shadows that refuse to be fully illuminated. It is as though Dustgrave Diner exists partially in another dimension. Food and objects sometimes appear in impossible locations. A plate of sandwiches may be set neatly on a counter where no one has been. A cup of coffee steams gently, its aroma wafting into the dining area though the kitchen is empty and untouched. Visitors report sensing the faint presence of someone moving about, the subtle rhythm of activity without any human figure to explain it. Sound plays a vital role in the diner's presence. The scrape of a chair, the clatter of dishes, and the whisper of wind combine into an auditory experience that feels deliberate. Some visitors have recorded these sounds, only to find the audio includes noises they did not hear in the moment, voices murmuring unintelligible words, or footsteps pacing where no one stood. The effect is subtle yet undeniable, creating a persistent sense of being watched and followed. Time feels distorted inside Dustgrave Diner. Moments stretch and contract unpredictably. A short visit may feel like hours, while an entire evening can pass unnoticed. Patrons frequently leave with a lingering impression that they have been both guests and observers, caught in a space that refuses to conform to the conventional rules of time and reality. Despite the strange occurrences, the diner retains an air of hospitality. The tables are always arranged neatly, the counter wiped clean. And the building never feels abandoned in the traditional sense. It is as though Dustgrave Diner wants to be experienced, inviting visitors to witness its mysteries rather than flee from them. Yet the unease never dissipates entirely, reminding everyone that the building is more than just a structure. Local lore hints at the diner's origins, suggesting that it was built in close proximity to the cemetery to serve both travelers and those tending to the graves. Stories persist of unexplained events stretching back decades, of patrons who felt invisible presences or glimpsed shadows moving independently. Whether legend or reality, the narrative adds to the diner's enigmatic charm, drawing curious visitors who seek both history and the unknown. As night falls, the diner takes on a heightened presence. Shadows grow longer and more defined, winds sweep through with greater force. And the faint footsteps in dust multiply across the floors. Chairs drag themselves with a deliberate pace, and the hum of the building's unseen mechanisms becomes more pronounced. Every element works together to create a living tableau, a scene that straddles the line between reality and the extraordinary. Dustgrave Diner is more than a roadside stop. It is a convergence point for the past and present, the living and the departed. Each gust of wind, each moving shadow, and each unexplained sound contributes to a story that cannot be fully captured or explained. Visitors leave with more questions than answers, carrying the memory of cold air, drifting dust, and the sensation that someone or something was always just behind them. The diner endures as a quiet testament to mystery. Travelers passing through the desert may notice the faint glow of light through the windows. The faint glow of light through the windows. The scrape of an unseen chair. Or footprints that vanish in the dust. Dustgrave Diner waits, inviting observation, preserving its secrets, and offering a glimpse into a world that bends the ordinary into something hauntingly extraordinary. The Whispered Junction Kaffa copyright rests quietly at a remote crossroads, where the road narrows and the desert stretches endlessly in every direction. Its exterior is simple, painted in muted tones that blend with the surrounding landscape. At night, the Kaffa copyright seems unassuming, a small oasis of light against the dark expanse. Yet those who pass by speak of an atmosphere that is both inviting and unsettling. Inside, the air is cool and carries the faint scent of coffee and baked goods. The tables are neatly arranged, chairs tucked under, and the soft hum of the overhead lights fills the room. For most of the evening, the Kaffa copyright appears ordinary. Travelers eat their meals, sip coffee, and exchange quiet conversation. Yet as midnight approaches, the ordinary shifts into something extraordinary. Voices begin to emerge from the vents, faint at first, like a breeze stirring loose papers. The whispers are clear, precise, and impossible to ignore. Some say the voices mirror those of loved ones, imitating tones and inflections that seem intimately familiar. The effect is both comforting and eerie, stirring deep emotions in those who hear them. The source of the voices is impossible to locate. Travelers have described the sensation of being watched, yet no one appears in the shadows. Every whispered word resonates with intent, as though the Kaffa copyright itself knows who you are and why you have come. The Da copyright COR of the Kaffa copyright amplifies the strange atmosphere. Whispers, holding them just long enough to return them with subtle variations. A response to the presence that lingers unseen. Some visitors attempt to speak back, asking questions aloud or calling the names they hear. But the whispers respond in kind, shifting to mirror their tone and timing. It is as though the Kaffa copyright is listening, learning, and communicating in a language older than the walls themselves. The effect is mesmerizing, drawing travelers deeper into the experience, forcing them to question what is real and what is conjured by the mind. The kitchen is quiet at this hour, yet the hum of the vent seems alive. Occasionally, a faint metallic clang echoes from the back, perfectly synchronized with a whisper from above. Chairs rock gently when no one is near, and the faint scent of food lingers, as though the Kaffa copyright remembers every visitor and every meal ever prepared within its walls. The building itself feels aware, a repository of memory and sound, observing silently while interacting subtly with those who remain. As the night deepens, the whispers grow more personal. They recount fragments of conversations. The cadence of laughter. Even tones of sorrow. Travelers have reported hearing words of comfort. Memories long forgotten. And phrases meant only for them. Some feel a deep connection to the Kaffa copyright in these moments. As though it bridges the gap between the living and the absent. Creating a space where emotion is amplified and presence is felt beyond sight. The effect is cumulative. Each whispered interaction leaves an imprint, a subtle but undeniable mark on those who hear it. Some leave the Kaffa copyright with an eerie sense of closure, others with a haunting question that lingers for days. The experience defies conventional explanation, blending the ordinary with the supernatural, the comforting with the mysterious. By the first light of dawn, the whispers fade, leaving only the quiet hum of lights and the faint scent of brewed coffee. The kaffa copyright settles into a calm, unassuming state, as though nothing had occurred, waiting patiently for the next night to awaken its peculiar gift. Travelers who depart often glance back at the glowing windows, sensing that the building itself retains a memory of their presence, quietly observing until the next visitor arrives. Whisper Junction Kaffa copyright is more than a place to rest or eat. It is a threshold where voices linger beyond the visible, where emotion and memory are carried through air ducts and reflected in shadows. Each visitor leaves transformed, carrying with them the echo of whispers, the intimacy of recognition, and the undeniable sensation of having encountered something alive and sentient. In the stillness of the desert night, the kaffa copyright waits, ready to call the names of those who come, ready to weave memory, sound, and presence into its mysterious embrace. Silver Plate Depot sits along a forgotten stretch of highway, its exterior painted in faded chrome and muted reds. The diner looks ordinary at first glance, a place to stop for a late-night meal or a cup of coffee. Yet those who have entered after dark speak of an unsettling presence, a sensation that the diner exists both in this world and just beyond it. Inside, the air is thick with stillness. The hum of overhead lights mixes with the distant tick of an old clock, each sound echoing unusually far across the linoleum floor. The booths are lined neatly, tables polished to a soft sheen, yet the mirrors on the walls draw the eye in ways that defy logic. Travelers notice that their reflections are accompanied by others, figures seated in empty booths, watching silently from within the glass. These figures do not exist in real life. No one else occupies the diner, yet the mirrors insist otherwise. Patrons have recounted seeing couples sipping coffee, friends chatting quietly, and lone individuals reading newspapers, all reflected with lifelike detail. The most unsettling aspect is that some of these reflections smile when the traveler does not. Their expressions seem aware, attentive, and unnervingly calm, as if acknowledging the presence of someone who cannot see them in the physical space. The diner itself is simple but timeless. The counter stretches across the room, stools line neatly beneath it. Behind the counter, the kitchen hums softly, though no one is working. Coffee pots steam gently, plates gleam without use, and utensils sit arranged as if waiting for customers who may never arrive. Every sound, every flicker of light, is amplified by the quiet, creating a sense that the building itself is alive, aware of every movement and breath. Silver Plate Depot has been a roadside staple for decades. Built in the mid-20th century, it has seen countless travelers pass through. Some locals claim that long ago, the diner was the site of a series of brief but inexplicable disappearances. People would stop for a meal and leave without explanation, their presence recorded only in fleeting reflections or forgotten items left on tables. The incidents were never fully explained, but the legend remains, whispering among those who still live in the area. Visitors describe a strange distortion of time inside the diner. Moments stretch, clocks seem to slow, and conversations feel disconnected from the outside world. Patrons sitting alone may glance at a mirror and see a group of people laughing quietly behind them. When they turn, the booths are empty. The mirrors do not lie, yet they reflect something that exists beyond the ordinary senses, a space where memory, perception, and reality intertwine. Cameras placed to record activity often capture fleeting movements, shadows that bend independently of light, and reflections that do not match the actions of anyone present. Images of the reflected figures sometimes appear closer to the observer than before, as if shifting intentionally. Audio occasionally picks up faint laughter or the scraping of chairs, yet no one is seen moving. These subtle phenomena are enough to unsettle even the most skeptical visitors, leaving a lingering sense that the diner holds more than just its physical structure. Staff members who work late hours are accustomed to the presence, treating it as part of the dinner's unique atmosphere. Plates are cleared, coffee is poured, and the routine of service continues. Yet they too glance at the mirrors with a certain wariness. Some describe seeing reflections of former patrons, frozen in time, smiling or gesturing. Moments repeated endlessly in the glass. Even they are careful to avoid meeting the reflections directly, knowing that the experience can linger long after leaving the building. The dinner's design contributes to the phenomenon. Windows let in dim light that shifts throughout the night, altering the way the reflections appear. The combination of light, glass, and silence creates an environment. An environment that blurs the line between the real and the reflected, making the diner a liminal space in which perception itself feels unstable. Travelers often leave Silver Plate Depot with an impression that is hard to articulate. They recall the figures in the mirrors, the subtle smiles that seem to follow them, and the strange quiet that amplifies every step and whisper. The experience is not overtly frightening, yet it is unforgettable, leaving a lasting sense that the diner contains something beyond the ordinary. Even days later, the memory of a reflected face smiling when none should remain lingers in the mind. A quiet echo of a place that defies explanation. The exterior of the diner appears ordinary by day, but at night it takes on a different quality. The chrome paint reflects the faint glow of passing headlights. The windows shimmer as though alive, and the building itself seems to breathe. Even from the road, the mirrored walls hint at activity, flickering images just beyond comprehension. Travelers passing by often feel an inexplicable pull, a curiosity that demands they stop, even if only for a moment. Silver Plate Depot is more than a diner. It is a space where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect, where reflections reveal lives that are absent yet present, where silence amplifies perception, and every mirror holds a story waiting to be noticed. Those who enter are offered a glimpse into a world that exists alongside their own. A reminder that not everything in the reflections is what it seems. Next time a quiet road stretches ahead and a diner with mirrored walls glimmers in the night, consider Silver Plate Depot. Inside, faces watch, smiles appear when none exist, and every reflection hints at secrets that persist just beyond the reach of ordinary vision. And every reflection hints at secrets that persist just beyond the reach of ordinary vision. The experience stays with travelers long after they leave, a silent testament to a place where reality and reflection intertwine endlessly. A silent testament to a place where reality and reflection intertwine endlessly. Twisted Spoon Bistro sits at the corner of a quiet, forgotten street. Its sign swinging gently in the evening breeze. From the outside, it appears like any other neighborhood eatery, lights glowing softly through the windows, promising warmth and comfort. Yet those who cross its threshold quickly realize that the bistro is a place where the ordinary bends in ways that defy explanation. Inside, the air carries the faint aroma of spices and baked bread, familiar and inviting. The polished counters and neatly arranged tables suggest normalcy, yet subtle disturbances hint at something beyond the everyday. Visitors have reported seeing them bend slowly, twisting as though caught between the hands of an invisible force. The metal warps and curves in ways that seem impossible, defying the rigidity of reality itself. The lighting adds another layer of unease. Bulbs flicker in irregular patterns, casting shadows that dance along the walls and ceiling. Occasionally, the flickers form sequences that some perceive as messages, rhythmic pulses reminiscent of Morse code. The patterns are brief, fleeting, yet they command attention, drawing the eye to corners and angles that otherwise go unnoticed. Light and shadow interact in ways that make the room feel alive, subtly shaping the perception of anyone inside. Visitors often describe a sensation of being followed, not by sight but by touch. A tug at the sleeve, light but deliberate, can be felt as they navigate between tables. Chairs scrape softly behind them, though no one sits. Footsteps echo where none should be, a rhythm that blends with the flickering light and the bending spoons to create a layered sense of awareness. The diner feels watched and inhabited, yet without a presence that can be clearly identified. The bistro's walls hold echoes of past patrons. The air is thick with memory, a faint resonance of laughter, conversation, and clinking dishes. Occasionally, the temperature shifts unexpectedly, a cool draft where none should exist, a warm breath across the back of the neck. These fleeting sensations heighten the sense of intimacy, as though the bistro itself remembers those who have passed through, responding to the presence of the living with subtle, mysterious gestures. Tables and booths appear familiar, yet details change when observed too closely. Napkin holders slide an inch or two, condiments appear in new positions, and menus occasionally flutter open without a breeze. The effect is disorienting, a gentle reminder that the space is not entirely anchored in the world outside. A threshold where the known and unknown meet. Those who linger report a quiet tension, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Some attempt to follow the subtle movements, the flickering light, the bending spoons. Only to find the objects settling back into place when unobserved. It is a dance of perception, a game in which the bistro sets the rules. And the visitor learns to move with patience and caution. The sounds within the space are equally unsettling. Faint footsteps echo in time with the flickering lights. The scrape of chairs punctuates the silence. And the occasional clatter of a spoon bending breaks the rhythm unexpectedly. It is a symphony of subtle disturbances, carefully orchestrated to keep the senses alert. The bistro communicates without words, through motion, light, and touch. Inviting observation without revealing its purpose. Even the air feels alive. The scent of cooking, though no one works in the kitchen, drifts through the room. Shadows stretch along the walls and ceiling, elongating and compressing in patterns that feel almost intentional. It is as though the space itself breathes, pulsing with a rhythm that is both familiar and otherworldly, keeping all who enter in a delicate state of awareness. Visitors often describe moments of connection with the unseen. A spoon bends directly in front of them. A light sequence flickers just above their head. A gentle tug urges them toward a booth. The interactions are subtle but insistent, suggesting a presence that is playful, patient, and observant. Those who notice these small gestures feel a mixture of wonder and unease. As if they are participating in a dialogue that exists beyond language. Nightfall intensifies the atmosphere. The bistro glows warmly against the darkened street, lights flickering like silent signals. Shadows stretch farther, movements of objects become more pronounced, and the sense of presence deepens. It is in these hours that the Twisted Spoon Bistro reveals itself most fully, a place where the rules of the physical world are quietly suspended and the imagination is invited to take flight. The bistro endures as a mystery, a space where silverware defies expectation, lights speak in fleeting patterns, and invisible hands interact with the living. A space where silverware defies expectation, lights speak in fleeting patterns, and invisible hands interact with the living. It is a place that rewards attention, patience, and curiosity, offering an experience that is at once unsettling and captivating. Those who pass through carry the memory with them, a lingering impression that some spaces exist beyond ordinary perception, inviting visitors to witness what lies just beyond the edge of understanding. Inviting visitors to witness what lies just beyond the edge of understanding. Twisted Spoon Bistro is not just a diner. It is a liminal space, a threshold where the unseen interacts with the living in ways both subtle and profound. Every flicker of light, every bending spoon, every gentle tug reminds all who enter that the world is larger than it appears. And that mystery often resides in the quietest corners of the most familiar places. Blue Ember Grill stands at the edge of a quiet road, its exterior weathered and unassuming by day. The building is simple, with chipped paint and faded signage, yet there is a tension in the air that hints at something unusual. Travelers who pass by sometimes feel compelled to stop, drawn by a subtle pull they cannot explain. As night falls, the diner transforms. A soft blue flame glows from within. Illuminates the surrounding parking lot. In a ghostly light, bathing the desert in an ethereal shimmer. As though the building itself has drawn energy from some other realm. The effect is mesmerizing, impossible to ignore. As though the building itself has drawn energy from some other realm. Inside, the atmosphere is quiet and still. The hum of unseen machinery and the faint scent of coffee fill the air, yet there are no staff present. The booths are immaculate, menus neatly stacked, and tables set as if awaiting guests. At the far corner, a single figure sits, head bowed, eyes never lifting. The figure's presence is unsettling and calm at once, a constant within the strange ambience of the diner. The blue flame illuminates the room unevenly, casting long shadows that ripple across the walls. Light bends around corners and angles in ways that defy logic, creating illusions that seem almost tangible. Patrons often report that the shadows appear to move independently, stretching or shrinking as if the diner itself were breathing. Despite the serene glow, there is a subtle unease. The scrape of a chair, the soft clatter of dishes, the distant hiss of air from the kitchen. None of these can be traced to any source, and yet they are undeniable. They suggest movement, life, and presence, even in the absence of anyone visible. The figure at the corner table remains still, yet there is an impression of awareness. Visitors feel as though they are observed, not in a threatening way, but as if the diner's history and memory have coalesced into this solitary shape. Attempts to approach or speak often end in silence, with the figure remaining motionless, absorbed in some unseen focus beyond the diner itself. Windows reveal an empty landscape outside, dark and quiet, with the glow of the blue flame spilling onto cracked pavement. Reflections shimmer oddly on the glass, sometimes revealing shapes or movements that vanish when looked at directly. It is as if the diner's light stretches beyond its walls, interacting with reality in ways that cannot be fully explained. The air carries a strange weight, a stillness that encourages attention and reflection. Minutes stretch and contract unpredictably, and the rhythm of the diner seems independent of the world outside. The building exists on its own schedule, a pulse that beats in quiet synchronization with the blue flame. Objects inside respond in subtle, inexplicable ways. Plates may shift slightly, chairs tilt, and the faint aroma of meals lingers though the kitchen remains cold. Patrons often sense small motions in their peripheral vision, like someone crossing the room, only to find no one there. The diner seems to acknowledge presence without revealing its mechanisms, creating an experience that is both tangible and elusive. The diner's reputation has grown among those who chase the unexplained. Paranormal enthusiasts, travelers, and night wanderers arrive hoping to witness the blue flame and the figure at the corner table. Many leave with recordings of faint sounds, anomalies in photographs, or impressions that cannot be fully articulated. Every account contributes to the growing legend of a place where light, shadow, and presence converge into something beyond ordinary understanding. The blue flame itself seems alive. It flickers without wind, pulses without pattern. And sometimes intensifies when someone is near. Visitors describe a sense of calm energy intertwined with quiet tension. A sensation that is soothing yet impossible to ignore. The light interacts with the room in ways that alter perception. Casting shadows where none should fall, highlighting corners otherwise hidden in darkness. Night deepens, and the diner becomes a theater of subtle motion. The figure at the corner remains seated, yet its presence is felt across the room. Chairs may scrape faintly, dishes emit soft echoes, and shadows stretch as if performing a slow, deliberate dance. All of it is contained within the soft blue glow, creating a scene that is serene and uncanny simultaneously. Blue Ember Grill is a place of paradox. It is inviting yet elusive, warm and light yet cold in the absence of heat. Still yet full of movement. rewarding those who linger with experiences that defy ordinary explanation. Visitors depart with a sense of having touched something beyond comprehension. A memory of light, shadow, and the quiet watchfulness of a solitary figure. The diner endures as a quiet enigma, existing outside conventional understanding of space and time. Its glow pierces the darkness, illuminating both the building and the imagination of those who pass by. Each night adds new moments, new impressions, and new questions, as the blue flame continues to pulse. The figure remains in its corner, and the diner quietly observes the world beyond its walls. Blue Ember Grill is more than a roadside diner. It is a place where light and shadow meet in harmony and mystery. Where time and perception bend subtly. And where the ordinary is transformed into something quietly extraordinary. Travelers leave with a lingering awareness. A sense that they have witnessed not just a building, but a presence that defies conventional explanation. Carried forever in the glow of the blue flame. And the watchful eyes of a solitary figure. The Gila Bend Ghost Stop stands quietly along a lonely stretch of desert highway. Its neon sign flickering faintly against the evening sky. Travelers often pass by without noticing, yet those who do cannot shake a sense of unease mixed with curiosity. From a distance, the diner appears alive. Bustling with movement and the murmur of conversation. Shadows shifting behind frosted windows as if a crowd occupies the space. Approaching the entrance, the scene changes. The closer one gets, the more the figures seem to fade. By the time the door is opened, the diner is empty. Tables sit neatly arranged, chairs tucked under polished surfaces, and plates remain undisturbed. The air carries a faint warmth, lingering where bodies might have sat moments before. And the faint scent of coffee and fried food hangs in the stillness. Every element hints at life, yet no one is present to confirm it. Visitors often comment on the chairs, which remain warm long after the diner appears deserted. It is as if patrons had just stood up and left, vanishing before anyone could follow. The sensation is unsettling, a tangible echo of presence that refuses to be explained. Footsteps echo softly across the floor, blending with the hum of the neon sign outside and the distant whistle of the desert wind. Every sound is amplified in the emptiness, making visitors hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. The DA copyright COR is typical of a roadside diner, yet the atmosphere is charged with subtle anomalies. Silverware rests on polished tables, but occasionally shifts slightly, as if recently used. Coffee cups appear to have been lifted and set down, leaving faint rings behind. The jukebox hums faintly even when unplugged. And the ceiling fans move gently despite still air. Every detail seems designed to convince the mind of activity, reinforcing the sense of a crowd that is there and not there simultaneously. Some travelers report catching glimpses of figures in the corners of their vision, shadows that vanish when looked at directly. Others hear faint laughter, the clink of cutlery, and murmurs that cannot be traced to a human source. The diner seems aware of its visitors, responding subtly to movement and sound. The warmth of chairs, the displaced silverware, the distant echoes of conversation all combine to create a living memory of life that exists only in the residual presence of those who may have once been there. The windows reflect the desert outside, yet occasionally reveal the impossible. In fleeting moments it is possible to see figures sitting at tables, their faces indistinct, blurred by distance and light. Approaching the windows often yields nothing but the empty interior, leaving visitors questioning the reliability of their senses. Evenings bring a unique intensity. The fading sun casts long shadows across the diner, and the warmth from chairs becomes more pronounced. The room seems to hold on to energy more insistently, amplifying the sensation that someone or something remains just beyond perception. Travelers who linger often describe a sense of time stretching, a disorientation born of the simultaneous presence and absence of the diner's patrons. Some report glimpsing reflections of themselves sitting at empty tables, as if the diner mirrors their own presence back to them. Others claim to feel gentle brushes of air, like someone walking past, leaving warmth and movement in their wake. Every sensation reinforces the unshakable feeling that the Gila Bend Ghost Stop is a place suspended between reality and memory. The Kaffa Copyright-S kitchen remains quiet, yet faint traces of activity linger. The scent of food seems freshly prepared. The metallic tang of utensils echoes softly. And the faint heat of cooking remains even without a flame. The building itself seems to hold on to these moments, preserving them for those who enter. It is a place where the past refuses to remain past. And where every visitor becomes acutely aware of the thin line between the tangible and the imagined. By dawn, the dinner's illusions fade with the first light. Shadows retreat, chairs cool, and the sense of presence diminishes. Leaving only the quiet hum of the building and the soft desert breeze outside. Travelers leave with more questions than answers. Carrying the memory of warmth, movement, and voices that were never physically there. The Gila Bend Ghost Stop exists as both place and phenomenon. A roadside mystery where the echoes of life persist long after the living have departed. The diner waits silently, patient and enduring. It waits for the next traveler to glimpse movement behind frosted windows. To feel warmth in an empty chair. And to hear the faint traces of laughter and conversation that never truly existed. In the vast desert, where time stretches and reality bends. The Gila Bend Ghost Stop remains a haunting testament to presence and absence. To memory and mystery. A place where the line between life and its echoes is never entirely clear. Shadow Plate Trailer Diner rests along a desolate stretch of desert highway, a small silver trailer gleaming faintly under the moonlight. On the surface, it appears abandoned, yet those who have driven past claim it moves between visits. During the day, the trailer seems inert, silent and still, a relic of a roadside past. But at night, the environment shifts. Travelers approaching notice a faint warmth, the smell of coffee and fried food lingering in the air, though no cooking occurs. The trailer's windows reflect movement, though nothing is visible outside. The desert wind whispers against the metal siding, carrying sounds that seem to echo from within the trailer itself. Inside, the shadows tell a different story. Walls that should be plain are alive with movement. Shadows stretch and twist across the metal interior, defying logic. They appear without a source, flowing along the floor and ceiling as if they possess their own will. Patrons who have entered describe a sensation of being watched, though no one is present to observe them. Every step is echoed, amplified, and folded back into the trailer's oppressive silence. The diner is small, with a counter along one side, a few stools, and a handful of tables. Plates and silverware are neatly arranged, though untouched. And a faint scent of cooking lingers without origin. The air inside feels charged, heavy with anticipation, as if the trailer itself is aware of every movement. Even the lights, when switched on, flicker unpredictably, casting shadows that seem to linger longer than the illumination itself. Those who have investigated the diner speak of strange phenomena. Footprints appear in the sand outside, leading away in patterns that suggest someone has walked around the trailer. Yet the desert shows no other sign of life. Sounds of scraping, soft tapping, and distant voices echo through the interior. Though no one is present. Cameras left to record activity capture fleeting shapes darting across walls. And shadows that stretch far beyond the size of anything in the trailer. The history of Shadow Plate Trailer Diner is difficult to trace. Locals speak in vague terms, mentioning a traveling vendor who parked his trailer along this route decades ago, serving meals to passing drivers. Some say he disappeared one night, leaving the trailer behind. Others suggest the trailer never belonged entirely to him, that it has always moved on its own, following the highway, appearing where it is most needed or most feared. Visitors often report a distortion of time inside the trailer. Minutes stretch unnaturally long, conversations feel disjointed, and the outside world seems to vanish. Shadows crawl along walls and counters, elongating and contracting as if responding to unseen forces. Those who stay long enough sometimes see the shadows coalesce into shapes resembling figures, lingering at the edge of perception, never fully revealed. Cameras and recording equipment set up inside the trailer. Shadows appear in angles that defy the positioning of objects and light sources. Audio picks up soft footsteps, the clinking of dishes, or a distant hum, none of which correspond to any observable cause. Some footage shows shadows stretching across the walls, meeting briefly at a corner before dissolving into the metal siding. Visitors leave with more questions than answers, a sense that the trailer contains memories or presences beyond human understanding. The trailer's interior is both familiar and alien. The counter glows faintly under the dim lights, and the booths and stools appear ready for service, yet no human hand has touched them. The desert outside remains silent, yet the trailer feels alive, moving in rhythm with an invisible pulse. Every corner holds a secret, every shadow a story, and every sound becomes amplified in the stillness. Shadow Plate Trailer Diner draws the curious and the brave. Travelers stopping for a quick meal find themselves lingering, captivated by the subtle movements and strange echoes. Paranormal enthusiasts attempt to document the phenomena, though instruments often fail to capture what the senses can perceive. The trailer seems to exist in a space outside ordinary reality, a liminal place where perception and presence blend, and the ordinary laws of time and motion no longer fully apply. Outside, the trailer casts long shadows under the moonlight, the tracks in the sand marking its journey. Some believe the trailer moves to follow travelers, to appear at points along the highway where its presence is most likely to be noticed. Others think it roams freely, a ghostly sentinel along an empty road, observing, waiting, and occasionally allowing glimpses of the unusual within. Shadow Plate Trailer Diner is more than a roadside attraction. It is a threshold between the familiar and the unexplained. A place where shadows have substance, and the past seems to persist within the present. Visitors leave with memories of shapes that should not exist, of footprints and tracks in the sand, and of an awareness that the trailer itself is watching, moving, and enduring. Next time a quiet stretch of highway appears ahead, and a small silver trailer glimmers in the distance, consider the possibility of Shadow Plate Trailer Diner. The tracks in the sand may tell a story. The shadows inside may stretch beyond reason. And the presence within may linger long after the visitor has driven away. It is a place where the ordinary is suspended, and where every shadow has a story waiting to be noticed. Lost Hitchhiker Hub sits on the edge of a long, lonely stretch of highway, its weathered sign flickering faintly in the night. The building itself is modest, a small rest stop with dimly lit windows. A place meant to offer a brief respite for weary travelers. Yet as night falls, the hub transforms into a place of quiet mystery, drawing the eyes of drivers who pass by with the subtle pull of something unseen. Each evening, a hitchhiker appears near the entrance. He is tall, pale, and unassuming, standing with a posture that suggests patience and quiet expectation. Drivers who slow down to offer a ride notice the gentle curve of his smile, welcoming yet distant, as if he knows something they do not. The air around him carries a stillness, a calm that seems to pause the movement of the road itself. Those who stop often describe a moment of surreal clarity. The night feels unusually quiet, the hum of tires on asphalt muted, and the wind reduced to a whisper. He does not speak, yet there is a sense of acknowledgement, a silent agreement that the journey is shared, even for an instant. Then, as quickly as he appeared, he vanishes. Where he stood, nothing remains but a trail of dust, perfectly shaped like footsteps, stretching backward into the darkness. Drivers often lean forward, peering into the night, expecting to see him turn and walk into the shadows. But the footprints do not continue. The dust swirls lightly in the breeze, a fleeting reminder of a presence that has already slipped beyond comprehension. Inside the hub, the atmosphere carries traces of the unexplained. The air smells faintly of coffee and warm bread, yet the dining area is often empty. Chairs are slightly shifted, as if someone had been sitting just moments before. And the counter bears subtle impressions of hands that vanish when touched. Regular visitors speak of a sensation that is hard to describe, a feeling of being observed without threat. The hitchhiker's presence extends beyond the threshold, lingering in corners and along walls. Even in absence, the sense of him remains, like a memory imprinted on the very air. Some claim to hear faint footsteps echoing in the parking lot long after the night has passed, soft taps that fade into silence. Travelers who stop here late at night often report moments of disorientation. Time seems to stretch, minutes feeling like hours, the road outside the windows appearing to shimmer. There is a gentle tension in the space, a reminder that the hub is not entirely part of the ordinary world. It exists between moments, a waypoint where reality softens and the unexpected becomes possible. The hub's exterior mirrors the strangeness within. Faint glow of its lights reflects in puddles on the asphalt, creating images that seem to shift when observed out of the corner of the eye. Shadows of passing vehicles stretch unnaturally, bending along the edges of the building. The hitchhiker himself seems to materialize from these shadows, appearing suddenly near the curb, yet always maintaining a connection to the light within. Drivers who encounter him describe a mix of awe and unease. He is approachable, yet distant, familiar, yet impossible to fully understand. The act of offering a ride becomes an unspoken ritual, a brief connection between the ordinary and the extraordinary. When the hitchhiker vanishes, leaving only dust-shaped footprints, the encounter lingers, haunting the minds of those who witnessed it, a story carried for miles down the lonely highway. The pattern repeats night after night, a quiet consistency that defies rational explanation. Witnesses arrive at different times, in different vehicles, yet the experience is always the same. The hitchhiker waits near the entrance, offers a gentle smile, and disappears into the night, leaving behind a trace of movement and a sense of wonder that refuses to fade. Some theorize that the hub is a waypoint, a threshold between journeys, both physical and metaphysical. Others believe the hitchhiker is a guardian of travelers, a spectral presence guiding or observing without interference. No one can say for certain, and perhaps that is the essence of the mystery. It is a place that asks for respect, attention, and openness to the unknown. As dawn approaches, the lights of Lost Hitchhiker hub dim. The road outside returns to its normal rhythm, the wind carries a whisper of dust. The strange presence fades into memory. The hub waits patiently for the next night. For the next traveler, for the return of the hitchhiker. Who stands silently, smiles, and disappears once more. Lost Hitchhiker hub endures as a testament to the unexplained, a quiet intersection of reality and imagination. Every driver who stops carries a story, a memory of a brief encounter that defies understanding. The hub reminds all who pass it that some places exist beyond ordinary perception, that moments of wonder can appear in the most unassuming locations. And that the road often leads to encounters that linger long after the journey has ended. Ghostfire Diner rests alone on a stretch of deserted highway, its neon sign flickering weakly against the night sky. From a distance, it looks inviting, warm, and familiar, a place to pause and rest. Yet those who draw near quickly sense that something is off, a subtle tension in the air that warns of the extraordinary events within. The most unusual phenomena begin with the grill. Flames dance atop the metal surface, vibrant and flickering, yet they produce no smoke, no heat. The air remains cool, the scent of cooking absent. The flames move with a life of their own, rising and falling in patterns that suggest awareness, as though the grill itself is alive, performing a silent ritual for anyone who watches. Travelers have reported seeing a figure emerge from the kitchen. A chef's hat perched neatly atop a head. A uniform spotless despite the diner's age. And a presence that is both friendly and unsettling. The figure waves, a gesture meant to welcome. To invite, yet it carries a sense of something beyond normal interaction. Those who observe from the parking lot feel an inexplicable pull. A desire to approach, as if compelled by forces they cannot name. But the diner resists engagement. When anyone takes a step toward the door, the entire building plunges into darkness. The neon sign flickers out, and shadows swallow the space completely. The figure vanishes, leaving only the faint echo of movement or the soft hum of machinery long dormant. Travelers are left standing in the empty parking lot, staring at an ordinary building that seems ordinary no longer, aware that they have glimpsed something impossible. Inside, the diner is frozen in time. Booths are arranged neatly, counters gleam as though polished yesterday, and menus sit stacked with precision. Yet there is no warmth from the kitchen, no sound of activity. Plates remain clean and untouched, silverware polished and perfectly aligned. It is a space that feels lived in yet completely abandoned, inviting curiosity while withholding answers. Windows reveal only darkness beyond, though shadows move along the edges, flickering across walls and floor in patterns that seem almost deliberate. Some visitors claim to see shapes forming in peripheral vision, figures that vanish when directly observed. The air carries subtle sounds, the scrape of a chair, the faint hiss of the fridge, the soft clatter of dishes. None of these can be traced to a source, yet they are unmistakable, enhancing the diner's otherworldly presence. The diner seems to operate on a rhythm independent of the outside world. Time inside feels fluid, stretching and contracting unpredictably. Minutes can last hours, and what feels like a brief moment may pass unnoticed. It is as if the diner remembers each visitor, storing their impressions within its walls. The chef figure, though rarely seen inside, leaves subtle traces. A plate may shift slightly from its original position. A chair may tilt as though someone has just left it. Or a faint handprint may appear on a counter only to vanish moments later. It is evidence of a presence that is simultaneously welcoming and elusive. An entity that exists in the borderland between reality and the unexplained. Sound is central to the experience of Ghostfire Diner. The flames emit a soft crackle without heat. Chairs scrape faintly, and the hum of unseen appliances rises and falls unpredictably. These noises create a rhythm that feels alive, deliberate, and often synchronized with the flickering lights. A reminder that the diner has its own hidden logic. Outside, the parking lot remains empty yet full of energy. The wind moves oddly across the pavement, carrying faint echoes of laughter or conversation, though no one is present. Headlights of passing cars occasionally reflect the diner's outline in unusual ways, highlighting angles and shadows that seem to shift when observed a second time. It is a place where perception becomes unreliable, and ordinary understanding struggles to keep pace with what is seen. The diner's reputation has grown among those who chase the unexplained. Paranormal enthusiasts, travelers, and night wanderers arrive hoping to witness the flames, the figure, and the sudden darkness. Many leave with recordings of faint sounds or distorted images, evidence that is inconclusive yet compelling. Every account adds to the growing legend of a place where light and shadow, presence and absence, intersect in ways that defy explanation. Despite its eerie qualities, Ghostfire Diner maintains a strange allure. The glow of the flames, the neatly arranged tables, and the promise of a glimpse of the chef figure draw visitors repeatedly. The diner seems to invite observation without permitting intrusion, offering fleeting moments of wonder that cannot be fully captured or explained. It is a living enigma, a space where the ordinary is suspended, and the impossible becomes tangible. Night deepens, and the diner's presence intensifies. Shadows lengthen, the flames flicker higher. The quiet hum of the building resonates through the darkness. Those nearby feel the pull of the figure, the silent invitation to enter. And the momentary thrill of stepping closer, only to be met by the sudden and complete blackout. The effect is disorienting, captivating, and unforgettable. Ghostfire Diner endures as a testament to the mysterious and the extraordinary. It is more than a building, it is a phenomenon that manipulates light, shadow, and perception. Travelers leave with memories of flames that emit no heat, a figure that waves and disappears, and the uncanny sensation of a place that watches and responds. It remains on the roadside, patient and unyielding, waiting for the next visitor who will glimpse its secrets, and yet never fully grasp them. The dinner's story continues to unfold with each encounter, written in flickering light, shifting shadows, and the quiet echoes of impossible movements. Ghostfire Diner is a living enigma, a roadside mystery that challenges perception and imagination, a place where the ordinary and the supernatural meet in a fleeting, unforgettable moment. The Highway Echo Diner sits alone along a stretch of asphalt that cuts through miles of flat desert. Its faded paint and worn signs suggest years of service, yet something about the building feels suspended in time. Travelers who glimpse it from the road often feel drawn in, compelled by a quiet curiosity they cannot name. From a distance, the diner appears ordinary. But as the sun dips low and shadows stretch across the pavement, the air begins to thrum with a strange familiarity. As if the building itself remembers every footstep, every sound, and every conversation that ever passed through its doors. Inside, the diner is both pristine and haunting. The tables gleam under soft lighting, silverware perfectly aligned, plates stacked neatly at the counter. Yet the stillness is deceptive. The bell above the door rings at intervals, though no one has entered. Its clear chime echoes across the room, repeating with such precision that visitors feel caught between the present and a moment long past. Each ring resonates like a memory insisting on being heard, pulling anyone inside into a rhythm they cannot resist. Footsteps seem to follow along the aisles of the diner, soft yet distinct, fading as they reach the counter and then returning as if replayed by invisible hands. Occasionally, a plate slams down on the countertop, startling the observer, though no figure is present to account for the noise. The clang resonates, reverberating through the diner and leaving a lingering vibration in the air. Every sound, every movement, feels like a snapshot of a moment forever repeating, a memory frozen in motion but alive enough to unsettle anyone who experiences it. The copyright COR itself seems trapped in time. The vinyl booths and polished tables are immaculate, untouched by the passage of years, yet subtle details hint at life recently present. A chair may be slightly angled, a napkin left unfolded, a coffee cup set down with purpose. Travelers report a sensation of copyright déjà vu, a feeling that they are walking through a scene already witnessed, though they could not possibly have been present before. Windows reflect the fading light of the desert, yet the reflections sometimes do not match the outside world. The sun appears frozen in the sky, shadows frozen mid-motion, and the distant road glows in colors that do not correspond to reality. It is as if the diner has captured a single evening, replaying it infinitely, impervious to the passing of time beyond its walls. Every sound and every movement seems synchronized to this eternal loop, a narrative repeated for those who enter and are willing to listen. Travelers often remark on the unnatural quiet between sounds. The silence carries weight, a pause pregnant with anticipation. It is within these moments that the diner feels most alive, as if holding its breath. As if preparing to replay another fragment of the night that refuses to end. A soft rustle of a napkin, the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of a booth as if someone sits down and then vanishes all contribute to a sense of presence without form, a memory replayed in meticulous detail. At times, the diner seems to communicate through subtle variations. The bell may ring a fraction slower. A plate may tilt differently. Or a shadow may linger longer than before. These nuances create an unsettling impression that the diner is aware of its visitors, weaving them into the memory without disrupting the pattern of repetition, leaving visitors questioning whether they are observers or participants in a story that refuses to conclude. Leaving visitors questioning whether they are observers or participants in a story that refuses to conclude. Nightfall intensifies the effect. Neon lights glow faintly, painting the interior with muted reds and yellows. Shadows stretch across the polished floor, amplifying the sense of repetition. A whispered sound may emerge from the back kitchen, the subtle clatter of utensils echoing like a heartbeat. Chairs rock gently as though someone has just stood, and the bell rings again, marking the rhythm of a night that no longer belongs to the living. The diner exists in a loop, replaying itself over and over, preserving every detail of what may have been its final evening of operation. Those who leave the diner carry a profound sense of unease and wonder. The memory of the sounds, the fleeting movements, and the repeating bell remains vivid, lingering long after the highway stretches back into emptiness. Travelers often glance behind them, expecting to see the diner fade like a mirage. Yet it remains steadfast, quietly waiting for the next set of footsteps to enter and witness the echoes of a night that refuses to die. The Highway Echo Diner is more than a building. It is a vessel for memory, a space where time loops endlessly, and moments are preserved in meticulous detail. Each ring of the bell, each slam of a plate, and every creak of a chair becomes part of a narrative that continues without end. In the stillness of the desert, where the road stretches unbroken and the horizon seems infinite, the diner waits patiently, repeating its story, inviting travelers to step inside and experience a moment suspended between the past and the present. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the most haunted roadside diners in Arizona with midnight encounters. The desert holds stories older than time. Stories written in sand. Stories whispered by the wind. And stories waiting for travelers brave enough to approach a glowing diner at midnight. I hope you enjoyed this exploration. Take a moment to breathe, relax, and let the desert quiet fade from your mind. And remember, if you ever find yourself driving alone through Arizona at night and you see a diner glowing in the darkness, think about everything you heard here tonight. Will you stop, or will you keep driving? Rest well, my friend. Until our next story.